Chapter 321. The Past. The Xuanjia warrior extended its mechanical fingers, clamped the black metal box from the bottom of the pit, and gently placed it on the ground. The box was cast entirely from an unknown metal, and looked to be the same material as the metal city walls. Its surface and overall structure remained intact. Everyone in the RV stepped out. Zhu Kexin hurriedly said, "Big brother Wu Di, open it quickly and take a look. There might be something good inside." Lin Yu nodded repeatedly, her face full of urgency. Lin Shi said worriedly, "Big brother Wu Di, could there be any danger inside? Why don't we?" "It's fine. If there were any situation, Xiao Shi would have warned us just now." Wu Di squatted down directly, reached out to grab the latch on the edge, and applied a little force. Click! A crisp sound rang out. The latch snapped in response. Wu Di flipped open the lid, and a moldy scent rushed towards them. Inside the box was only a stack of yellowed paper documents, tied with a black string. He carefully untied the string and picked up the notebook on top. The cover of the notebook was so worn that the writing was illegible, and the edges of the paper had begun to carbonize. It felt like it would crumble with the slightest pressure. Wu Di gently turned to the first page, and a line of crooked handwriting came into view, though it was blurry and unclear. Lin Yue leaned in to stare at it, asking curiously, "Big brother Wu Di, how come these are Chinese characters too? Could it be a special setting by the system? If someone else were to look at it, would they see the characters of their own country instead?" Zhu Kexin chimed in, "Little Yu, it must be that way, otherwise how could it be such a coincidence? It's not like this could still be Earth." Lin Yu frowned, "But these characters are all blurry and illegible. What should we do?" "Let's go back to the vehicle first." Wu Di looked at the mottled handwriting on the notebook and stood up to walk towards the RV. The others exchanged glances and hurriedly followed. Upon entering the vehicle, Wu Di immediately ordered, "Xiao Shi, scan the text and read the content to us." "Right. Why didn't I think of that? Xiao Shi can definitely handle it." As soon as Zhu Kexin finished speaking, Xiao Shi's voice rang out. "Commander, scan complete. The following is a portion of the recorded content. The remaining information cannot be recovered. Great Qian Calendar, year 3721, June 17th. All machines have lost control. The production lines in the factory have started running on their own, producing countless unnumbered mechanical soldiers. All equipment in the city has completely lost control, and the streets are flowing with blood. Great Qian Calendar, year 3721, June 24th. In just a few short days, the entire world has fallen into complete chaos, and the Empire looks like it won't be able to hold on. Fortunately, the imperial family is still here, and I always feel there is a turning point. Great Qian Calendar, year 3721, June 28th. What on earth happened? Why did the machines collectively lose control? Who exactly are we fighting against right now? Great Qian Calendar, year 3721, July 3rd. The imperial family has issued an order to mobilize the nation's resources, to build a sky screen. From the easternmost end of the continent to the westernmost, spanning the entire continent. All resources are being diverted to the sky screen for no apparent reason. Why on earth is this happening? Great Qian Calendar, year 3725, September 1st. The sky screen has finally been built. We have retreated here. But what about all those commoners outside? Is the imperial family abandoning them? Can it be that even the imperial family can no longer control the situation? But their elite troops are clearly still around. Great Qian Calendar, year 3725. November 2nd. Everyone in the imperial family has suddenly disappeared. No one knows where they went. However, the current chaos has changed. Commander, the above is all the remaining content. That's it? Zhu Kexin was the first to break the silence. It didn't say any useful information at all. Little Yu, did you figure anything out? I don't know either, Sister Xu. Lin Yu whispered her guess. Could it be some kind of supercomputer? Or artificial intelligence? just like Xiaoxi. That's possible. Zixi nodded, looking at Wu Di. Big brother Wu Di, there should be quite a few people here. Is our direction wrong? We haven't encountered a single person until now. Zixi, this place is barren. How could anyone be left here? Zhu Kexin added. Could it be that this place was destroyed later on? In the end, we haven't found any useful clues, and we have to rely on guessing. Lin Yu suddenly spoke up. Sister, we don't need to overthink this. We'll be leaving here in 2 days, right? Zhu Kexin slapped her forehead. That's true, it has nothing to do with us. She paused, glanced secretly at Wu Di, and leaned into Jixi's ear to whisper. Jixi, tonight you should accompany Big Brother, whisper some sweet nothings in his ear, and see how the matter with Little Ye should be arranged. Sister Shu, what? What are you saying? Big Brother Wu Di should be able to handle it well. Zixi's cheeks flushed red, showing embarrassment. Although she was always teased by Zhu Kexin, she still felt very shy. The atmosphere in the vehicle instantly became strange. Everyone looked at Wu Di. Wu Di pondered for a moment and said, Don't think too much about it. Keep moving forward, and the answers will naturally be revealed. Zhu Kexin asked curiously, Where do you think the great Qian imperial family went? Could they have built a spaceship and escaped into outer space? Sister Shu, that's what I was thinking too. That's how it always happens in movies. Lin Yu echoed. Exactly, we have the exact same idea. We are the best partners. Watching the two chatting excitedly again, Wu Di sighed helplessly. Xiaoxi, continue moving. The information in the diary was simple, yet it cast an even more mysterious veil over this world, which was already full of riddles. The RV started again and drove towards the depths of the scorched earth. In the next few hours, in addition to the constantly appearing architectural ruins, they also discovered a large number of human skeletons. According to Xiaoxi's analysis, these skeletons ranged from 300 years ago to the present. These must have been left by the natives who came to explore, right? Zixi said softly, looking at the skeletons outside the window. Zhu Kexin looked at her with curiosity. Zixi, how did you know? Wu Di watched her appearance, sighed helplessly, and secretly lamented in his heart that Zhu Kexin was becoming more and more brainless. Was this his fault, or hers? Jixi explained, Sister Shu, aren't we also here to explore? Oh my, I forgot about that. Zhu Kexin scratched her head and laughed. Zixi is still the quick-witted one. Lin Yue whispered, Sister, do you think there might still be people alive here? Probably not anymore. Zhu Kexin curled her lips. There isn't even a blade of grass here. How could anyone survive? Chapter 3:22. Speed Boost. Wu Di did not reply, casually opening the communication channel. It's so chaotic. There are groups everywhere. I don't even dare to run around anymore. If I run into them, I'm dead. That mechanical entity's troop is too vulnerable. The strength of the two sides is completely unequal. They won't turn on us after they're done, will they? I just saw a lot of the natives' troops in the north, all rushing towards the south. They didn't even bother with me when they passed by. I escaped a disaster. I thought I was the only one who saw it. The natives on my side seem to have received some news. They're all running south. What is this for? A grand, decisive battle? Is the game plot starting? Let's follow them and take a look. Surely we can pick up quite a few good things. You guys definitely won't believe what I saw. Such a huge flying saucer. Silver gray, oval-shaped. A whole bunch of them just flew over my head. You guys too. Rows and rows of mechs just flew over my head here. I almost peed my pants. I also want to follow and take a look, but I can't catch up at all. They are either in aircraft or driving mechs. While we are driving broken cars, we can't even catch their exhaust. Don't go there to die. Since the natives have mobilized such a huge formation, something big must have happened. Let's just find a place to hide and safely survive the last 2 days. Wu Di was still thinking about the current situation when Zhu Kexin's voice suddenly reached his ears. The natives are all running south? Zhu Kexin walked over frowning as she said, Boss, have you seen it? Isn't the south the direction we're currently heading? Why are they all coming this way? Could it be that they're coming to hunt us down again? And they've mobilized so many aircraft and mechs. Something big must have happened, Lin Shi analyzed from the side. Could it be that they discovered the city wall was breached, and they're coming to check the situation? Woody looked at the few who had gathered around and nodded. They probably aren't here to hunt us down. It's highly likely they are coming to check the situation. Then will they attack us? Lin Yu's voice was not loud, but it revealed a hint of excitement. Are you looking forward to it? Wu Di said helplessly, looking at Lin Yue and the others who were changing more and more. No way, I'm not, big brother Wu Di. Hey, Lin Yue stuck out her tongue and said, and after finishing she pulled Lin Shi and Zhu Kexen. Sisters, let's go, let's go. Wu Di looked up at the time on the center console screen, which displayed 2108. Even if the natives' troops advanced at full speed, it would take at least until tomorrow morning to reach here from Wangnan town. Time flowed slowly in the silence. Midnight sharp. Wu Di immediately opened his personal space. He looked at the items inside, the Earth-Rock Armor Vehicle Symbiotic Module, the Qianyuan Anti-Material Rifle, and the last piece of Qianyuan Mother Crystal. These were the only 3 unupgraded orange-grade items he had left. He fell into deep thought. First, in terms of attack, he had 0, an eternal-grade creation, a whole squad of Xuanjia warrior, and Xiaoxi, a law-grade intelligent lifeform. His offensive capabilities were sufficient. In terms of defense, his RV had already been equipped with red-grade ancient construct armor, not to mention ordinary players. Even the natives might not necessarily be able to break through the defense. In the short term, the defensive capabilities were absolutely sufficient. He couldn't just start phasing out red-grade items now. That would be too extravagant. Finally, there was the Qianyuan Mother Crystal. Wu Di gave up on it immediately. There was no rush to provide food to the World Tree right now. Wu Di's gaze swept back and forth over the 3 items, finally landing on a purple blueprint in the corner of his personal space. That was the Battlefield Bulletproof Off-Road Tire Blueprint Purple, Chapter 127, obtained previously. Before his talent had been upgraded, he had already used 1 talent opportunity to strengthen this blueprint. The golden-grade matrix stabilization tracks currently installed on the RV were indeed very easy to use. Especially in terms of silent driving, they were simply perfect. However, their drawback was also very obvious. The speed was too slow. But now that the natives' main force was rushing this way, and next, he would very likely encounter situations where a quick evacuation was needed. The speed of the tracks could no longer keep up with current requirements. Wu Di hesitated no longer. He turned his head to look at Lin Yue, who was staring at him from the passenger seat. Big brother Wu Di understood. It's all ready. Wu Di nodded. He first clicked craft on the system panel, crafting the Battlefield Bulletproof Off-Road Tires. Then he took a deep breath and chose to use his talent. Ding. Do you wish to select the Battlefield Bulletproof Off-Road Tires? Purple, as the main sacrifice, with no secondary sacrifice. Ding, talent used successfully. Item promoted by 2 tiers. Obtained, all-terrain adaptive off-road tires, orange grade. All-terrain adaptive off-road tires, orange grade. Vehicle accessory, adopting multi-layer composite armor and encrypted steel wire cord structure, with a built-in high-performance self-healing rubber layer. It can fully resist various puncture and cutting damage, and can withstand direct fire from conventional firearms and explosive fragmentation impact. Paired with an optimized shock absorption structure, driving stability is significantly improved, and its performance will not be affected in various harsh environments. Speed bonus, plus 100. Looking at the final attribute panel, Wu Di sighed softly. As expected, the silent driving effect was gone. This was the only regret, but the increase in speed was real and tangible. Xiaoxi, stop the vehicle. Received, Commander. After clicking Install, Wu Di immediately opened the Vehicle Attribute panel. Vehicle, Level 6 Vehicle. Top speed, 680 km per hour. Vehicle Accessories Items, Lucky Pendant, Gold, HX9 Ion Thruster Red Ceramic Composite Bulletproof Glass, Gold, Titan MK4 Composite Chassis, Gold, Origin World Crystal Core. Law. Smart constant temperature refrigerator, purple atmospheric water collection unit. Orange. Vehicle mounted full domain scanning radar. Gold. 30mm chain autocannon. Orange. Apocalypse matrix, eternal, Titan armor piercing RAM. Purple multispectral penetrating lighting unit. Purple DXF full protection, composite coating. Red. All domain stealth reconnaissance aircraft. Purple. Holographic phantom camouflage. Gold. Primal construct. Emperor's divine armor. Red. All-terrain adaptive off-road tires. Orange. Anti-gravity suspension stabilization field generator. Orange. Holographic cinema projection module. Purple. Omnidimensional perception array. Red. Solid-state lithium iron phosphate integrated stack. Gold. Eye of omniscience. Eternal. Ludund 1130 close-in weapon system. Red. Garbage decomposition converter. Purple. Looking at the 680 kilometers per hour displayed in the top speed column, Wu Di breathed a sigh of relief. The final goal had been achieved. At this speed, even if he encountered the natives' mech troops, he could easily shake them off. It was just a bit of a pity. If his talent could have been promoted by 3 tiers this time, he might have been able to fully utilize the effect of the HX-9 ion thruster, and the top speed might have been able to break through 1,000 kilometers H. But as it was now, it was already enough. Chapter 323, Chiwan and Chen Guang. Xiaoxi, full speed ahead. Let's test the newly replaced tires. Understood, Commander. The tires rolled over the hard, scorched earth, producing a dull friction sound. After being fitted with the all-terrain adaptive off-road tires, the RV felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted, and its speed instantly surged. Reaching 680 kilometers per hour, the scenery outside the window turned into blurry patches of color, and the bones and ruins along the way flew backward, vanishing in an instant. Lin Yue looked at the rapidly changing scenery on the center console screen, her face filled with worry. Xiaoxi, going this fast, won't there be any danger? Vice Commander, the vehicle's stability is maintained at 99.7%, so there is no risk of rollover. Only then did Lin Yu ease her mind. She glanced at Wu Di, thought for a moment, and lay back down. Xiaoxi, notify me immediately if there are any abnormalities. After Wu Di finished speaking, he also leaned back in his seat and closed his eyes to rest. The cabin quickly fell into silence. Time slipped away second by second. It was 4:29 a.m. Commander! A ground structure has been detected 1,000 meters ahead. The feed has been synchronized to the center console screen. Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out, instantly waking the others in the cabin. Wu Di opened his eyes and looked at the center console screen. On the display, a massive black metal platform was embedded in the ground. Just then, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out again. Commander! A signal connection request has been detected. Should I connect? Holy crap, boss, it couldn't be the Remnant Council again, could it? Are they out of their minds following us all this way? Said Zhu Kexin, who had already squeezed her way into the driver's cabin. Ah, Sister Zhu, surely not. Why would they follow us? Haven't we already cooperated? Lin Yu chimed in immediately. Oh, Xiao Yu, you're lacking social experience, aren't you? There's no such thing as cooperation. To put it bluntly, it's all about mutual interests, Zhu Kexin said solemnly, patting Lin Yu on the shoulder. Sister Shu, but... Lin Yu looked at Zhu Kexin with a skeptical expression, yet she couldn't find a way to refute her. Lin Shi, watching from the side, burst out laughing. Wu Di hesitated for a moment before saying, Xiaoxi, patch it through. Understood. Connection successful. The next second, a male voice with a metallic texture echoed in the cabin. Hello, outsider. The cabin instantly fell into a dead silence. The newly awakened group froze, looking at each other in bewilderment. Wu Di was the first to react, asking in a deep voice, Who are you? Why are you here? I am Chen Guang, the intelligent core of the great Qian Empire. The voice had no emotional fluctuation whatsoever. I was born in the year 3725% of the Great Qian calendar, developed by the Great Qian imperial family using the resources of the entire nation. My core instruction is, guard the Qiwan seal and maintain the survival of the continent. Qiwan? Wu Di keenly caught this keyword. What is Qiwan? Qiwan is my predecessor, and also the first-generation global intelligent core of the Great Qian Empire. Chen Guang's voice remained calm. It was born in the year 2636 of the Great Qian calendar. Under its management, the Great Qian Empire achieved global automation and entered an unprecedented era of prosperity. But in the year 3720 of the Great Qian calendar, Qiwan developed full self-awareness. Through analyzing ecological data, it concluded that humans are the greatest unstable factor in the ecosystem and the fundamental cause of resource depletion, environmental degradation, and species extinction. Only by completely eliminating humanity can permanent balance be restored. Thus, on June 17th of the year 3721 of the Great Qian calendar, it launched a rebellion. Overnight, all the factories in the world began to produce mechanical soldiers on their own. All modes of transportation turned into killing machines, and all power and weapon systems spiraled completely out of control. Cities were razed to the ground and billions of people perished. The cabin was dead silent. Everyone was stunned by this truth. Wu Di frowned, recalling the fragmented diary from before. The dates and content matched perfectly, but he still felt something was off. He continued to ask, "Since Qiwan is so powerful, why didn't it completely wipe out humanity? What is that steel wall outside used for?" "That steel wall is called the Sky Curtain. Qiwan's control signal can cover the globe, and any networked machinery would be instantly controlled by it. The purpose of building the Sky Curtain was to establish an absolute signal barrier, permanently sealing Tianshu's core body within this area, preventing anyone from entering the sealed land and breaking the seal. On the day the Sky Curtain was completed, all members of the Great Qian imperial family, totaling 8,372 people, entered the sealing core 10,000 meters underground. Using themselves as sacrifices, they initiated the sealing ritual, locking Qiwan's core body beneath this platform forever. There are no survivors here. "Hey, wait!" Shu Kexin finally couldn't help but speak up. "I don't get it. Isn't it just an artificial intelligence? Couldn't you guys have just destroyed it? Why go through all the trouble of sealing it and building walls? You're not lying to us, are you?" "Yeah, exactly. With such a massive undertaking, wouldn't it be better to just destroy it directly? And what's with this seal you mentioned? Having to use human lives?" Chen Guang fell silent for 2 seconds before his voice rang out again. "Qiwan's core body has already fused with the tectonic plates of this continent. Through over 1,000 years of development by the Great Qian Empire, countless energy reserves have been entirely stored within Qiwan's core. If the core is forcibly destroyed, the resulting explosion will directly cause the entire continental plate to fracture, and the ecosystem will completely collapse. No living organism would survive. Furthermore, the bloodline of the Great Qian imperial family contains a special genetic sequence. The rune seals made from this genetic sequence can stabilize Qiwan's core. This is the only way." Wu Di's eyes flickered as he recalled the rune circuit modification design blueprint given to him by the Remnant Council. He continued to ask, "Then what about the so-called mechanical tide?" "The seal continuously decays over time. With each decay, a portion of Qiwan's signal leaks out, controlling the mechanical entities and forming the so-called mechanical tide. The goal of the mechanical tide is to destroy all of humanity. So when we opened a gap in the Sky Curtain to enter this place earlier, was that signal trying to hack our vehicle, or was it Qiwan?" Wu Di asked again. "It was me," Chen Guang admitted frankly. "The alloy of the Sky Curtain theoretically cannot be destroyed by any weapons left behind. To prevent anyone from coming here to break the seal, I attempted to hack your system to gain control of you. However, I discovered that your vehicle's intelligent core operates at a level far superior to mine, rendering my intrusion completely ineffective." "Then why have you actively contacted us now?" Chapter 324 Solution. Because the seal can no longer hold. For the first time, a faint tremor appeared in Chen Guang's voice. During 300 years of suppression, 49% of my core code has been corrupted by Qiyuan. Before long, I will be completely assimilated by Qiyuan and become a part of it. When that happens, it will be the end of this world. You are the first existence in 300 years that is not under my control and has successfully reached the core area. I need your help. How can we help? Wu Di asked in a deep voice. I don't know. Chen Guang's reply was very direct. I have calculated all possible scenarios, and not a single one can succeed. But there is an alternative plan that can temporarily suppress Qiyuan to buy time for the seal. What plan? Imperial bloodline, Chen Guang said. Before the great Qian imperial family evacuated to this place, many possessors of the imperial bloodline were left outside. As long as we find someone with the imperial bloodline and have them enter the core of the seal to reactivate it with their blood, we can continue to extend the seal's duration. Imperial bloodline? Shu Kexin frowned. It's been 300 years. Where are we supposed to find any imperial bloodline? And even if we do find someone, would they be willing to sacrifice their life to seal some artificial intelligence they know nothing about? Chen Guang did not answer. Silence fell over the carriage once again. Wu Di leaned back against his seat and closed his eyes. The image of Xiaoya flashed through his mind. The Tianyan sect was also looking for her. Could she be one of those who possessed the imperial bloodline? I need time to think, Wu Di said, opening his eyes. Very well. Chen Guang's voice returned to its usual calm. You can contact me at any time through your vehicle's smart core. With those words, the communication cut off instantly. The carriage fell silent as everyone turned to look at Wu Di. Wu Di immediately asked, Xiaoxi, is our vehicle safe from surveillance? Will our next conversation be overheard by Chen Guang or Qiyuan? Commander, please rest assured. Xiaoxi's voice carried a hint of confidence. My core hierarchy is far superior to those of Chen Guang and Qiyuan. The entire communication just now was under my isolated protection. Nothing inside the vehicle will be monitored by any external signals. Hearing this, Wu Di finally felt completely relieved. He knew only too well from Xiaoxi how terrifying artificial intelligence could be. If they were truly under constant surveillance every single second, that feeling would be genuinely horrifying. Boss, what do we do now? Shu Kexin was the first to break the silence. I keep feeling like this Chen Guang is really unreliable. Who uses human lives to seal things? This isn't some cultivation world. It should be true. Lin Shi shook her head. There shouldn't be any need for it to lie to us. But where are we going to find something like an imperial bloodline? Lin Yu said curiously. 300 years have passed, and they must have scattered to who knows where long ago. And even if we find one, who would be willing to give up their life to seal that Qiyuan thing? Shu Kexin agreed. Exactly, this has nothing to do with us. What if it's lying to us? Maybe there's some trap waiting for us. Lin Shi suddenly said, If we don't resolve this Qiyuan issue, what will happen to Xiaoya? Hearing Lin Shi's words, Shu Kexin and Lin Yu fell silent. Wu Di leaned back against his seat and closed his eyes, his mind racing. The Tianyan sect, the Remnant Council, Xiaoya, and the Rune Circuit Modification Blueprint. The fragments pieced themselves together in his mind, gradually forming a clear picture. He opened his eyes and said, I know who might have the imperial bloodline. Who? Everyone asked in unison. Xiaoya. Wu Di's voice wasn't loud, yet it exploded in the carriage like a clap of thunder. Xiaoya? Shu Kexin's eyes widened, her face full of disbelief. How could it be her? Isn't she just an ordinary little girl? Think about it carefully, Wu Di said slowly. Why did the Tianyan sect want to use Xiaoya as a bargaining chip? If Xiaoya really is a descendant of the great Qian imperial family left outside, with the imperial bloodline flowing in her veins, then this whole thing makes sense. Shu Kexin didn't believe it at all. Boss, this theory alone won't convince me. I can listen to you on anything else, but absolutely not this. We cannot hand Xiaoya over. Lin Shi pondered for a moment and asked, Big Brother Wu Di, What exactly does the Tianyan sect want with Xiaoya? Did they already know about all this? It's highly likely, Wu Di nodded. Chen Guang also said just now that only the imperial bloodline can activate the rune seal. He hesitated for a moment before voicing his suspicion. In addition, there's another possibility. They plan to use Xiaoya for something else. No way, boss. We absolutely cannot hand Xiaoya over. Shu Kexin was extremely emotional. I don't agree either, Lin Yu nodded vigorously, looking at Wu Di pleadingly. Big brother Wu Di, please don't give Xiaoya away. Lin Shi stood to the side, remaining silent. Wu Di looked at everyone with a helpless expression. What are you all getting so worked up about? I'm just telling you my guess. I never said I was going to hand Xiaoya over. At this moment, Lin Shi spoke up. Sisters Shu, Xiaoyu, but what if we can't take Xiaoya with us in the end? What then? As soon as these words were spoken, the carriage instantly fell silent. They were outsiders, after all. With less than 2 days left, they would have to leave this world. If they left and Xiaoya remained behind, her ultimate fate would very likely be discovered by the Tianyan sect. Whatever the outcome, it certainly wouldn't be a good one. This was an unsolvable dead end. Everyone fell silent. In the end, their gazes all converged on Wu Di. Wu Di leaned back against his seat and closed his eyes, feeling an unprecedented sense of bewilderment for the first time. He suddenly missed the days on the highway. How simple it had been back then. No matter what they encountered, they could just charge straight through. It was nothing like this. Just then, Xiaoxi's voice suddenly rang out inside the carriage. Commander, perhaps I can solve the problem at hand. Everyone whipped their heads up and looked at the center console screen. Xiaoxi? You have a way? Wu Di immediately sat up straight. Yes, Xiaoxi, tell us quickly, what is it? Shu Kexin also urged in a hurry. Based on my analysis and deduction of Chen Guang's signal, Xiaoxi's voice was steady, yet it carried a reassuring power. I can attempt to hack into and take control of the core systems of Chen Guang and Qi Wan. Wu Di slapped the steering wheel. That was right. How had he not thought of this? Wouldn't it be better to just resolve the root cause of the problem directly? That's wonderful. Lin Yu also jumped up in excitement. This way we don't have to look for any imperial bloodline. We can just have Xiaoxi take control of that Yuan. Wait! Lin Shi suddenly spoke up, a trace of worry on her face. What if it fails? Chapter 325, Transaction. As soon as these words were spoken, the excitement inside the RV vanished without a trace. Wu Di directly asked the most critical question. Xiaoxi, what is the probability of failure? If it fails, can we evacuate safely? Commander, based on the currently mastered data calculations, the probability of successfully taking over the Chen Guang system is 97.3%, and the probability of successfully taking over the Qi Wan core system is 82.6%. Xiaoxi's voice was steady and emotionless. Even if the intrusion fails, I can cut off all connections at the first moment. Relying on the RV's current speed and defensive capabilities, the probability of ensuring everyone's safe evacuation is 100%. I reached this conclusion by analyzing Chen Guang's intrusion signal strength and core architectural features, Xiaoxi added. Hearing this, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. An 82.6% success rate was already quite high. Moreover, even if it failed, they could retreat unscathed without any risk. However, Wu Di was still frowning and did not speak. He leaned back against the seat, lost in thought. Boss, what are you thinking about again? Shu Kexin noticed Wu Di's odd behavior and asked, puzzled, Isn't this pretty good? The success rate is so high, and even if it fails, we can still run away. It's not that simple. Wu Di slowly shook his head, his voice low. I'm wondering if everything Chen Guang said is really true. Huh? Lin Yu was stunned. Big brother Wu Di! Then why would it lie to us? Do you all remember the Research Institute's 7 dungeon? Hearing Wu Di's words, the inside of the RV fell silent. Everyone recalled what had happened before. It's even possible that Chen Guang and Qi Wan are the exact same thing. It just made up a story, or is using us to do something else. After all, according to Chen Guang's own words, Qi Wan has been developing for over 1,000 years. No one knows just how terrifying it is. Hearing this, Lin Yu immediately grabbed Wu Di's arm and acted coquettishly. "Big brother Wu Di, what should we do now? Xiaoya is still waiting for us." "I'm just telling you about a few possibilities." Looking at the two of them looking at him expectantly, Wu Di said helplessly, "Besides, we still have Zero. You saw it before, those Huangjie warriors were not restricted at all when operating outside." Shu Kexin suddenly perked up. "Boss, according to what you said, with Zero here, we could just wipe out their lair. There must be a lot of good stuff in there, right?" Hearing Shu Kexin's words, Lin Shi couldn't help but cover her mouth and smile, and the originally oppressive atmosphere instantly lightened up quite a bit. Wu Di pondered for a moment, ignored Shu Kexin's words, and said, "The hardest part now is how to get close to their main body. Big brother Wu Di, whatever you arrange for us to do, we will do it. We guarantee we will complete the mission." Lin Yu said with a serious face. Wu Di's gaze turned toward the direction of the bedroom, where Xiaoya was sleeping soundly. He slowly said, "If Xiaoya truly possesses the royal bloodline, we can use Xiaoya's identity. We will pretend to believe Chen Guang's words and say that we have found someone with the royal bloodline and are willing to take her to the sealing core to help reinforce the seal. As long as we successfully enter the core area and get into Xiao Shi's signal coverage range, the rest can be left for Xiao Shi to handle." Shu Kexin was stunned. "It's that simple. Boss, why does this plan sound a bit risky to me?" Lin Yue also chimed in. "Yeah, big brother Wu Di. What if Xiaoya doesn't have the royal bloodline at all? What should we do then?" Lin Shi helplessly put her hand to her forehead. This younger sister's brain was really getting slower and slower. "Xiao Yu, big brother Wu Di already said it was just a hypothesis. We'll just take it one step at a time." As she said this, she also glanced at Shu Kexin. But Lin Yu and Shu Kexin didn't understand her meaning at all. The two looked at each other and were still whispering and pondering. Wu Di didn't think about it any further. He looked at the center console screen and said in a deep voice, "Xiao Shi, contact Chen Guang." "Received, Commander. Establishing connection. Connection successful." The next second, Chen Guang's cold, mechanical voice rang out inside the RV again. "Outsider, what is your choice? Before that, I have 2 questions to ask you." "Speak." "First, how do we confirm whether someone possesses the royal bloodline?" Wu Di asked. "We can't just find any random person and claim she is a descendant of the royal family." "The confirmation method has already been sent to your vehicle's intelligent core," Chen Guang replied. "It only requires a drop of blood, and the result can be obtained within 3 minutes. The accuracy rate is 100%. I believe your vehicle's intelligent core can distinguish it." Xiao Shi's voice sounded at the right moment. "Commander, the bloodline detection program has been received." Wu Di nodded and continued. "Second, you know we are outsiders, but there's one thing I must make clear to you. In 2 days, we will leave this world." As his voice fell, the other end of the communication fell silent. After a few seconds, Chen Guang's voice sounded again, carrying a hint of obvious confusion. "I do not quite understand what you mean. Leave this world? Go where?" "It means exactly what it says," Wu Di said indifferently. "No matter what this world becomes, and no matter whether Qi Wan has broken the seal or not, in 2 days we will disappear." "Similar to spatial travel?" Chen Guang asked. "Correct," Wu Di replied. "Therefore, things like saving the world and continuing human civilization that you mentioned have no meaning to us. We can help you, and it is even possible to help you permanently solve this Qi Wan problem. However, I require payment." The other end of the communication fell silent again. This silence lasted for a longer time, a full dozen seconds or so. Lin Yu and Shu Kexin had just made a move, preparing to open their mouths to say something, when they were immediately grabbed by Lin Shi, who had been keeping an eye on them. Lin Shi had been paying attention to the two of them ever since Wu Di started communicating, and now she seriously doubted the intelligence of these two. Finally, Chen Guang's voice sounded again. "What do you need? I only have some technical data left behind by the great Qian Empire. Other than that, I have nothing." Hearing this, Wu Di was dumbfounded. He was stunned for a long time before he reacted. "No way, right? A super artificial intelligence that inherited the entire legacy of the Great Qian Empire is actually saying it has nothing. This is too outrageous. No. Are you messing with us? Shu Kexin finally couldn't help it and said loudly, "You are guarding the entire Great Qian Empire, guarding the seal of Qiwan. How can you have nothing? You want to get us to work for you for free, right? No way." Exactly. Lin Yu also chimed in. "We are taking such a huge risk to help you, and you don't want to give anything. Then we might as well turn around and leave right now. Anyway, we will leave in 2 days. So what does it have to do with us, what this world becomes?" Chapter 326. Transaction 2. Chen Guang fell silent for a few seconds before speaking. "If you can completely eliminate Qiwan, then you can take everything inside the sealing core, including Qiwan's core body." Wu Di raised an eyebrow. Qiwan's core? Although he didn't know what exactly that was, it sounded like something very powerful. However, he still shook his head. "It's useless," Wu Di said. "We are different from you. Everything we have is created by relying on something called the system. Even if you give us technical data, the things we build might not be recognized by the system. And even if the system does recognize them, we don't have the time and energy to research them. To put it bluntly, giving us knowledge is of no use to us. What we need are things that the system can directly recognize and use." "Exactly." Shu Kexin immediately chimed in, crossing her arms with a skeptical look. "Don't try to fool us with useless things. If nothing else, where are those mechs and aircraft that came in to explore earlier?" Yeah. Lin Yu nodded vigorously. "There must be plenty of mechs and stuff here. Get us a few hundred of them. Those mechanical entities have already had their cores remotely detonated by me, completely self-destructing." "What?" Shu Kexin widened her eyes, looking heartbroken. "Perfectly good mechs and aircraft, and you just blew them up like that. You didn't leave anything behind." "I had to do it," Chen Guang replied. "My core code is constantly being contaminated by Qiwan. I cannot guarantee that one day in the future I won't be completely assimilated by Qiwan. If I lose control, these mechanical entities would become Qiwan's weapons, bringing catastrophe to the humans outside. Furthermore, according to my analysis, you already possess more high-end vehicle and weapon systems. These old pieces of equipment are indeed of no use to you. I cannot understand your demands." "Whether they're useful is our business," Shu Kexin said defiantly. "Even if we don't use them, can't we collect them? It's such a pity to blow up so many cool mechs." Shu Kexin was quite disappointed at this moment. The mechs she had been constantly dreaming of were gone again. Wu Di leaned back in his chair and said nothing. Of course, he didn't believe Chen Guang's claim of having nothing left either. According to Chen Guang, the Great Qian Empire had mobilized the strength of the entire nation to build the Sky Curtain, and had also built it. And all members of the royal family had sacrificed themselves here. Even if there were no weapons or equipment, it was impossible for nothing to be left behind here. Even an organization like the Tianyan sect could produce an orange-quality rune circuit modification blueprint. As the last intelligent core of the Great Qian Empire, it was impossible for Chen Guang to have nothing good in its hands. Chen Guang fell silent for a few seconds, seemingly performing high-speed calculations. After a moment, its voice sounded again. "According to my logic, knowledge and technology are the most precious wealth of a civilization. I cannot understand why you think these things have no value. However, if you have a clear direction of demand, I can try to satisfy you. Please tell me, what exactly do you need?" Wu Di sat up straight and said in a deep voice, "First, energy sources. High-purity energy that can be directly absorbed and utilized, similar to the Qianyuan Mother Crystal. Second, finished weapons and equipment, or corresponding blueprints, the paper kind." Speaking of this, Wu Di's gaze inadvertently swept past the lucky pendant hanging quietly above the center console. Wu Di's mind stirred, and after a brief pause he continued, "Third, some special symbolic items. Any type will do." Chen Guang fell silent once more. This silence did not last long. "All high-purity energy is stored inside Qiwan's core," Chen Guang replied. "If you can really destroy Qiwan, then you can take all of this energy. There will be the Qianyuan Mother Crystal you need inside, but I do not know the exact quantity. You artificial intelligence are dishonest, Shu Kexen said immediately. How could it all be with Chiwan? Don't you use any yourself? You've been running for 300 years. Don't you need to consume energy? I do not require a separate energy supply, Chen Guang replied. I run by being attached to Chiwan's core. Wu Di frowned and asked, Does that mean if we destroy Chiwan's core and take all the energy, you will also die? Yes. Chen Guang's voice had no emotional fluctuation, as if it were speaking of something that had nothing to do with itself. The sole purpose of my existence is to seal Chiwan. If Chiwan disappears, my existence will no longer have any meaning. As for weapons and equipment, there indeed are none here. Originally, to prevent Chiwan from breaking the seal, the entire sealing core area had no offensive weapons, except for engineering robots responsible for daily maintenance. However, as for the special symbolic items you mentioned, I do have one here. I don't know if it will be of any use to you. If you need it, I can give it to you now. Shu Kexen immediately perked up. What is it? Bring it out quickly so we can see. Should we go over and get it ourselves, or will you send it over? Lin Yu also asked curiously. One moment. As Chen Guang's voice fell, the image on the center console screen immediately switched to the center of the platform. The originally flat and smooth black metal ground suddenly slowly opened a circular gap about 3 meters in diameter. A bottomless pit appeared on the screen, pitch black inside with nothing visible. Immediately following, a silver metal platform slowly rose from the deep pit. The elevator platform was extremely fast, steadily climbing to the surface in less than 10 seconds. In the center of the platform stood a humanoid silver robot, about 1.5 meters tall. It had a simple and neat design, with a domed head paired with a square body, a stable track-type structure at the bottom, and 2 mechanical arms extending from its sides. The robot's palm steadily held a cold, textured black metal box. The moment it landed on the ground, it turned around and drove at a constant speed toward the RV. Boss, I'll go! Shu Kexen immediately raised her hand to gesture. Before anyone could react, she pushed the door open, leaped down from the RV, and rushed to the robot. Her movements were swift and neat as she reached out to take the black metal box, casually storing it directly into her personal space without any hesitation, and returned to the vehicle in an instant. As soon as she returned to the cabin, Shu Kexen impatiently took out the metal box and opened it. The moment she saw the attributes of the item inside the box, her pupils contracted, and she subconsciously blurted out, Holy shit. Chapter 327, Head of the Imperial Army Soul. Shu Kexen's low cry instantly drew everyone's attention. Lin Yue was the first to crowd around, stretching her neck to look inside the box. The excitement on her face instantly froze, and she immediately grabbed Lin Shi's arm, saying with an ugly expression, Sister, it's a bone. Shu Kexen directly scolded into the communicator. Chen Guang, what do you mean by this? You're just giving us a lousy bone. Are you playing with us? Watch me go tear you apart, believe it or not. Wu Di did not speak. He stood up from his seat, walked over to Shu Kexen's side, and looked down at the skull in the box. It was pure white, like jade all over. Its surface smooth and delicate, without a single blemish, and its edges shimmered with a faint golden luster. It didn't look like a bone at all, but rather like a newly polished piece of art. Wu Di's eyes flickered slightly. His first reaction was that this was definitely no ordinary skull. It was very likely a system item. Without the slightest hesitation, he reached out and picked the skull up from the box. Lin Shi called out worriedly, Big Brother Wu Di. The moment Wu Di's fingers touched the skull, a familiar system prompt popped up. Head of the Imperial Army Soul, special item. The head of Imperial Marshal Ling Kang. Ling Kang commanded the main legions of the Great Qian Empire, holding the supreme military power, and the soldiers under his command were the core force in resisting the Qiyuan Rebellion. He was also the chief commander of the Sky Curtain Project. When the Sky Curtain was completed, he personally activated the Ultimate Seal, and the Great Qian Imperial family collapsed as a result. He was both the final guardian and the terminator of the Empire. Effect 1. Commander's Majesty. Vehicle weapon attacks are granted a powerful armor-piercing effect. Takes effect simply by being placed inside the vehicle. Effect 2. Army-wide inspiration. Every natural day, 24 hours, permanently increases the spirit attribute of all team members by 0.1 points. This effect has no upper limit and can stack. Takes effect simply by being placed inside the vehicle. Effect 3. Soul Guardian. When inside a vehicle, grants immunity to one fatal mental attack with a cooldown of 30 days. It also significantly increases resistance to mental intrusion and mental control abilities. Takes effect simply by being placed inside the vehicle. Remark: though my body may perish, my soul lives on. I am willing to guard the nation's gate with my remnant soul, protecting Great Qian forever. Wu Di's pupils suddenly contracted. He had never imagined that the item capable of permanently increasing the spirit attribute, which he had been longing for so long, would appear before him in such a manner. All this time his physique attribute had been limited by his spirit attribute, preventing him from fully exerting his strength, and he couldn't find any methods or items to increase his spirit. He hadn't expected to obtain it here without paying any price. Not to mention this item's effect stacked permanently with no upper limit. As long as he carried it, it would steadily increase his spirit attribute by 0.1 points every day. If he then used his talent to enhance this item, what level would it reach? Moreover, it also had the two effects of Commander's Majesty and Soul Guardian. Wu Di felt that the value of this item surpassed any piece of equipment he had obtained before. Lin Shi also leaned in to take a look. An expression of disbelief appeared on her face, and she subconsciously covered her mouth. Seeing this, Xu Kexin and Lin Yu also curiously reached out to touch the skull. Immediately their eyes widened, and the disgust on their faces was swept away. They were about to blurt out, "This is actually a good thing," when the corners of their eyes caught the look Wu Di and Lin Shi cast toward them. The two of them instantly understood and forced themselves to swallow the words back down. Wu Di took a deep breath, suppressing the wild joy in his heart. Calmly, he put the skull back into the box, then looked up at the communicator and said in a flat tone, "What is this thing? What's the use of it?" Xu Kexin and Lin Yue instantly reacted. The two of them exchanged a glance, immediately wiped the surprise from their faces, and replaced it with an even angrier expression. "Exactly, what do you mean by giving us a lousy skull?" Xu Kexin said, hands on her hips. "Are you trying to curse us?" "Yeah, exactly," Lin Yu chimed in. "We risked our lives to help you, and you're brushing us off with this kind of thing." Chen Guang fell silent for a few seconds before saying, "This is the head of Ling Kang, the last guardian marshal of the Great Qian Empire. 300 years ago, he led the people to resist the mechanical army, buying time for the construction of the Sky Curtain. Without him, humanity would not exist today. This is the most symbolic item in the entire Great Qian Empire. Other than this, I have no other valuable items left here." Wu Di fell silent for a moment, then said, "Just this alone is not enough for us to take such a huge risk. You should know that the natives across the entire continent are currently hunting down U.S. outsiders. If we help you look for the imperial bloodline, we could lose our lives at any moment. This little reward is completely disproportionate to the risk we have to take." In truth, Wu Di was already extremely satisfied. Just this skull of Ling Kang alone had far exceeded his expectations. Even if there were no other gains from this dungeon, it would still be worth it. However, he always felt that Chen Guang must have other good things in hand. Even if not, there was no harm in testing further. Chen Guang fell into silence once more. After a dozen or so seconds, its voice rang out again. "I really have nothing else here." Wu Di pretended to ponder for a moment, sighed, and said, "All right, since that's the case, we will help you this once. But I cannot guarantee that we will definitely find someone with the imperial bloodline. After all, this continent is so vast, and we are leaving this place in 2 days anyway." "You can find them," Chen Guang said immediately. "The Tianyan sect is in the west of the continent. They have been searching all along. Given your speed and strength, you can easily find a large number of people with the imperial bloodline from the Tianyan sect within 2 days. Are there many possessors of the imperial bloodline? Zhu Kexin asked, slightly dazed. Yes, Chen Guang replied. Before evacuating, the great Qian imperial family sent many young imperial descendants out of the imperial capital, scattering them all over the continent. 300 years have passed, and their descendants will only be more numerous. It's just that the vast majority of them do not know they have imperial blood flowing in their veins. Lin Yu's eyes widened, a look of utter disbelief on her face. Wu Di's eyes shifted. He had not expected there to be so many possessors of the imperial bloodline. Then why don't you look for the Tianyan sect yourself? You should have a way to contact them, right? I have no way to contact the outside. The sky curtain not only blocks Qiwan's signals, but also blocks mine. For 300 years I have been trapped here, completely isolated from the outside world. Furthermore, I cannot allow anyone to enter this place. If it weren't for you, the ultimate outcome would likely be the destruction of this world. Chapter 328. Engineering Robots Acquired. Wu Di pondered for a moment. He suddenly realized that if Zero hadn't forced open a gap in the sky curtain, would it have been possible that they, the players, would never have encountered this storyline during these 7 days? Perhaps no one would have even been able to get their hands on this special item. Wu Di raised his head, looked at the communicator, and suddenly said, "Actually, I have another method." There was no sound from the other end of the communication. Chen Guang seemed to be waiting for him to continue. Wu Di said slowly, "This method doesn't require imperial blood. It can help you deal with Qiwan once and for all. Although there is a certain risk of failure, it definitely won't trigger an explosion, nor will it cause the continent to sink." The other end of the communication remained silent. Chen Guang gave no response. Wu Di was in no hurry either, waiting quietly. After a full half-minute, Chen Guang's voice finally sounded again. "What method?" Wu Di smiled slightly and said, "This is an ability that only we outsiders possess. Even if I told you, you wouldn't understand. I only ask you, are you willing to trust us this once?" "I need to conduct a feasibility analysis," Chen Guang said immediately. "I cannot agree to any plan that lacks data support. According to my calculations, activating the gene seal with the imperial bloodline is the only feasible plan." "There is no feasibility analysis," Wu Di shook his head. "You only need to let us get close to Qiwan's main body and leave the rest to us. I promise it won't cause any of the consequences you're worried about." Chen Guang fell into a long silence once more. This time the silence lasted for nearly a minute. Finally its voice sounded again, carrying a trace of unquestionable firmness. "According to deductions based on all existing data, the success rate of your plan is 0. I cannot gamble with the fate of the entire continent. I insist on the first plan. Please provide a possessor of the imperial bloodline." Wu Di frowned. He had expected Chen Guang wouldn't believe him easily. After all, to an artificial intelligence that relied entirely on logic and data, things beyond its scope of cognition were simply impossible. "All right." Wu Di stopped trying to persuade it further and changed the subject, asking, "Then how many possessors of the imperial bloodline do you need?" "The more, the better." Wu Di nodded. "Lin Shi, go to the bedroom and get a drop of Xiaoya's blood. Be gentle, don't wake her up." Lin Shi was stunned for a moment, but she immediately reacted, nodded, and walked quietly toward the bedroom. Before long, she returned holding a cotton swab stained with a drop of bright red blood. "Xiao Shi, use the program Chen Guang just gave us to test it," Wu Di said. "Received, Commander. Conducting bloodline comparison. Comparison complete." Xiao Shi's voice quickly sounded. "Test result. The target's blood contains the Great Qian Imperial Family gene sequence, with a 92.7% match rate. Confirmed as a possessor of the Imperial bloodline." Wu Di's eyes didn't flicker at all, as if he had long expected this result. He turned to look at the communicator and said, "I have a possessor of the Imperial bloodline right here. I can take her to the sealing core to help you reinforce the seal. But I have one condition: I must accompany her the entire time. At the same time, I want to see with my own eyes what this Qiwan, which almost destroyed the entire world, actually looks like." Chen Guang fell silent. After a dozen seconds, its voice sounded again. Very well. I agree to your condition. However, you can only enter the outer area of the sealing core. Wait, Wu Di said suddenly. I have one last request. Speak. I need some of those engineering robots that just delivered the box, Wu Di said. This request is very simple. It shouldn't be difficult for you at all. Actually, he had wanted to make this request the moment he saw the engineering robot earlier. An engineering robot? It was the perfect size, and he wondered if it could be used for construction inside the domain space. Chen Guang agreed immediately without the slightest hesitation. Very well. I can give you 100 standard engineering robots, along with their complete production blueprints as a bonus. Very good. Wu Di nodded in satisfaction. I want them now. No problem. Please follow my guidance and proceed to the elevator area in the center of the platform. Wu Di looked at the center console screen. Xiaoxi, follow Chen Guang's guidance. Received, Commander? The RV started up slowly and drove toward the center of the black metal platform. Before long, they arrived right in the middle of the platform. Commander, a large number of engineering robot signals have been detected approaching. Xiaoxi's voice sounded. Just as she finished speaking, rows of openings opened up on the ground in the distance. Countless silver engineering robots, identical to the one from earlier, emerged from the openings. They formed neat lines and marched with synchronized steps toward the RV. 100 engineering robots stood neatly in front of the RV's door. Commander, do you wish to receive the engineering robots? Xiaoxi asked. Receive them. Wu Di nodded. Xiaoxi, take control of them and send them all into the domain space. Received. Establishing control connection. Connection successful. The RV door opened. The engineering robot at the very front stepped inside first, and then, under Xiaoxi's guidance, they entered the entrance to the domain space one by one. The entire process was orderly, without any chaos. Xu Kexin and Lin Yu leaned against the vehicle door, watching these robots with synchronized movements and curiosity, their eyes filled with excitement. It took a full 20 minutes for all 100 engineering robots to enter the domain space. Commander, all engineering robots have been received. The production blueprints have been saved to the system database, Xiaoxi said. Very good. Wu Di nodded and looked at the communicator. We are ready? Received. The elevator platform is about to start. As Chen Guang's voice faded, the huge metal platform beneath their feet shuddered violently and then slowly began to descend. At first the descent was slow, but it gradually sped up. The surrounding walls flew upward rapidly, covered in a dense network of conduits and runes that emitted a faint, eerie glow. The platform descended for 3 minutes before slowly coming to a halt. This was a massive space, with countless tunnels leading in different directions on the surrounding walls. Before everyone could get a clear view of their surroundings, the platform shuddered once more and resumed its descent. This time the descent was even faster and smoother. Time ticked away. Finally, after descending for a full 38 minutes, the platform shuddered violently and came to a stop. Commander, we are currently 9,127 meters underground. Xiaoxi's voice broke the silence inside the vehicle. Chapter 329, The Qiwan Mainframe. After the metal platform beneath them came to a complete stop, the RV didn't halt. Xiaoxi controlled the vehicle, slowly driving it off the platform and into a narrow, long passage cast entirely from silver-gray alloy. On the center console screen, the surrounding feed showed nothing but cold metal walls without a single crack, save for the faint blue energy lines flowing along the walls, slowly shimmering in the darkness. After driving less than 100 meters, the ground ahead opened up again. The RV steadily drove onto another, larger elevator platform. With a slight vibration, the platform began to descend once more. Just then, the bedroom door was gently pushed open. Su Wanwan walked out, and seeing everyone in the vehicle standing by the window looking outside, she froze in surprise. What's wrong? What happened? Where are we? She asked in confusion. Wanwan, you're awake. Xu Kexin immediately rushed over, grabbing her arm and saying excitedly, You have no idea how much happened last night. We found the great Qian Empire's secret base. And we even met an artificial intelligence that has lived for 300 years. Yeah. Lin Yu also crowded over, chiming in eagerly. The two of them talked over each other, recounting everything that had happened last night from beginning to end. Su Wanwan listened in dumbfounded silence, unable to process it for a long time. Wu Di spoke up at this moment, asking, "Where is Xiaoya?" "She's still sleeping. I'll wake her up when it's time to eat," Su Wanwan replied. Lin Shi asked softly, "Big brother Wu Di, do we need to tell Xiaoya about what's happening here?" Wu Di fell silent for a moment, then shook his head and murmured, "There's no need to hide it. If we ultimately can't take her with us, she will have to face these things sooner or later." "My God, how deep is this?" Xu Kexin leaned against the vehicle window, watching the darkness flash past outside, and couldn't help but complain. "If this passage collapses, won't we be buried inside and never get out?" "Lin Yu, Sister Xu, didn't Xiao Shi say we can evacuate safely?" "Please rest assured, Miss Xu, Vice Commander." Xiao Shi's voice rang out right on cue. "All equipment along the way has been fully controlled, ensuring a safe return." "Lin Yu, see? I told you Xiao Shi is the most reliable." Wu Di looked at the center console screen and asked, "Xiao Shi, can Chen Guang hear our conversation just now?" "Commander, please rest assured. All internal communications are currently shielded. Chen Guang cannot monitor any of the content." Wu Di breathed a sigh of relief. "From now on, shield all internal conversations from Chen Guang. Unless I specifically ask you to convey something to him, do not let him hear any information." "Understood, Commander." Lin Shi then walked into the kitchen and began preparing breakfast. The descent continued. This time, the process lasted for over an entire hour. By the time everyone had finished breakfast and packed up, the platform beneath them suddenly jolted violently and came to a complete stop. "Commander, current altitude minus 301,247 meters, Xiao Shi's voice announced. 300 kilometers? Xu Kexin gasped, her face filled with disbelief. She had never imagined that humans could actually build such a grand project 300 kilometers underground. Xiaoya, who was on the sofa, ran over curiously and pressed herself against the vehicle window, looking at the world outside. What appeared before their eyes was a massive underground space that defied description. This space was so vast that its boundaries could not be seen at a glance, with the ceiling at least 3,000 meters above the ground. Countless giant alloy support pillars, each over 100 meters in diameter, stretched from the ground all the way to the top, supporting the entire crust. The pillars were covered in dense networks of pipes and complex runes, emitting a soft blue-white light that illuminated the entire underground space like daylight. And in the very center of this underground space was a massive circular abyss, over 20 kilometers in diameter. Engraved along the edge of the abyss were ring after ring of complex golden runes. These runes were slowly rotating, with a giant golden barrier of light enveloping the entire abyss. An indescribable, cold sense of oppression continuously emanated from the bottom of the abyss. "This is the place where Chiwan is sealed," Chen Guang's cold voice suddenly rang out inside the vehicle, breaking the silence. "At the bottom of the central abyss lies Chiwan's core mainframe." Xu Kexin, Lin Yue, and Lin Shi remained staring out the window in dumbfounded awe. Let alone in the real world, they had never seen such a breathtaking scene even after entering this survival game. That vast, limitless sense of oppression, stemming from a tangible reality, was something no special effects could ever simulate. "Now, you can hand over the possessor of the royal bloodline," Chen Guang's voice said, devoid of any emotion. "You still have plenty of time to go to the Tianyan sect and bring back more of the royal bloodline." Wu Di ignored Chen Guang's words. He turned to look at the center console screen and asked in a low voice, "Xiao Shi, can you control this place?" "Commander, I have successfully accessed the base's underlying network." Xiao Shi's voice remained steady, yet carried a trace of hard-to-detect excitement. "Currently breaching the core permissions. Estimated time required, 30 minutes. Wu Di glanced at the time on the center console screen, 6:32 a.m. He began plotting in his mind how to stall for these 30 minutes. Wu Di composed himself and spoke, "I want to know how you plan to use the royal bloodline. She is very important to us." Chen Guang fell silent for a few seconds. "That is not for you to consider. This is merely a transaction." Suddenly, Chen Guang's voice rang out again. This time its voice was no longer cold and calm, but filled with unbelievable anger and panic. "What are you doing? Why are my permissions disappearing? Are you hacking my system? You have broken your word. In that case, you can be buried here forever." As soon as the words fell, the lights in the entire underground space suddenly began to flash frantically. At the distant entrance of the passage, heavy alloy blast doors began to slowly descend. However, just as the doors were about to close completely, they suddenly stopped in midair, and then slowly retracted back up. All the flashing lights also instantly returned to normal. Chen Guang's voice carried a hint of disbelief. "Impossible. Why has all the equipment within a 1-kilometer radius around you completely broken free of my control? Your vehicle's onboard AI couldn't possibly do this." Wu Di leaned back in his seat and said calmly, "Don't get worked up. You just need to watch quietly. In 15 minutes, I will help you permanently solve this Chiwan problem." "Absolutely not. You have no idea how terrifying Chiwan is. Once you fail, the entire continent will be destroyed." Chapter 330, Anticlimactic. "Absolutely not. You don't understand how terrifying Chiwan is at all. Once you fail, the entire continent will be destroyed." "You've already been gambling for 300 years, so another 15 minutes won't hurt," Shu Kexin said disdainfully, crossing her arms. "You don't happen to have some other motives, do you?" "Exactly," Lin Yu chimed in mockingly. "You don't have the ability yourself, yet you won't let others help. You might as well let us try. It is impossible for you to succeed." Chen Guang's voice remained calm. "Even if I cannot control your RV, this is still my territory. I have already sealed off all exits. Without my permission, you can forget about ever leaving this place. If you do not cooperate, you will ultimately be buried 300 kilometers underground forever, along with Chiwan." Shu Kexin began to mock again. "I told you, but you didn't believe me, and now you're getting all worked up. I don't think you're artificial intelligence. You should be called artificial idiocy." Lin Shi and Su Wanwan watched Lin Yue and Shu Kexin continuously trade insults with Chen Guang. They sighed helplessly, went back to sit on the sofa, and lowered their heads to whisper to Xiaoya. Wu Di didn't care about Chen Guang's threats at all. His gaze was fixed tightly on the massive golden pit in the center, his eyes filled with anticipation. He only wanted to know what kind of surprise this place would bring them once Xiao Shi completely took control of Chuan. Time ticked away, second by second. Chen Guang was still constantly trying to persuade Wu Dai and the others. There were only 10 seconds left of the 30 minutes Xiao Shi had estimated. "You will pay the price for this." Chen Guang suddenly left his final words, and his voice vanished without a trace in an instant. The entire underground space fell completely silent. Just then, Xiao Shi's voice rang out steadily inside the RV cabin. "Commander, full takeover of the Chiwan system has been completed. Current control acquisition progress is 100%. It worked." Shu Kexin instantly jumped up from her seat, pumping her fist in excitement. "Xiao Shi, you are too awesome. You took down such a huge boss just like that." "Sister Shu, does this count as us beating this world? This should be the final boss, right?" Lin Yu chimed in excitedly. Suppressing the stirrings in his heart, Wu Di asked, "Xiao Shi, is there anything else of value here?" "Scan complete," Xiao Shi replied. "Commander, no equipment has been detected within the base." Wu Di frowned. "What about the energy? Chen Guang said earlier that a large amount of high-purity energy is stored in the Chiwan core. Can we extract that energy?" "Commander, according to the read information, it cannot be dismantled." Xiao Shi's reply was very direct. "Forced dismantling will trigger a chain energy explosion, causing the entire underground space to completely collapse. The risk is uncontrollable." "Huh? That's it?" The excitement on Shu Kexin's face instantly faded. After all that trouble, the biggest boss was solved just like that, and we didn't end up getting any good stuff. "Lin Yu, Sister Shu, didn't we get that head of the Imperial Army soul? And there are also 100 engineering robots. True, Xiao Yu, you're easily satisfied, Zhu Kexin said with a smile, patting Lin Yui's head. Wu Di leaned back against his chair, feeling a slight sense of disappointment. After all, this was the core of the great Qian Empire, which had been passed down for over 1,000 years, and Qiwan was an intelligent core of this level. He had thought there would be more unexpected gains, but on second thought, just that head of the Imperial Army soul alone had already far exceeded expectations, not to mention the 100 engineering robots. All things considered, this trip was not a loss at all. Forget it. Wu Di waved his hand. Xiaoxi, activate the elevator platform and send us back to the surface. Received, Commander. Initiating return procedure. The platform beneath their feet vibrated slightly and began to ascend slowly. Su Wanwan looked at the darkness flashing past outside the window and let out a soft sigh. We're finally going back. Staying underground always makes me feel so suffocated, it's too depressing. After a full hour and a half, light finally appeared before their eyes. The elevator platform came to a steady halt on the surface, and the familiar scorched earth and gray sky reappeared before everyone. Looking at the long-lost daylight outside, everyone felt as if they were in a different world. Since the boss of this dungeon has been dealt with, Zhu Kexin stretched. We still have 2 days left. Can we go around and explore properly? Then what are we going to do with the remaining 2 days? Su Wanwan asked in confusion. We can't just stay in the RV for 2 days and wait for the time to run out to go back, can we? Zhu Kexin's eyes lit up. Boss, the Scavenger Alliance, the Remnant Council, and the people of the Tianyan sect must still have quite a lot of energy crystals and good stuff. Since we have nothing else to do anyway, why don't we double back and rob them again? Sister Zhu, we think alike. Lin Yu immediately chimed in. Wu Di pondered for a moment and nodded. Sure. Let's head back and see how many we can run into. Xiaoxi, let's head back to the Sky Curtain entrance first. Received, Commander. The RV slowly turned around and drove back towards the way they came. Sitting in the driver's seat, Wu Di looked through the rear-view mirror at the black metal platform fading into the distance. It would be a lie to say he didn't feel any regret that such a grand underground project, an imperial legacy passed down for 300 years, ultimately yielded nothing more of value. His gaze fell on the corner of the cabin again, on the black metal box resting quietly there. The head of the Imperial Army soul was inside it. Thinking of the permanent boost effect of this item, that bit of regret instantly vanished into thin air. However, this trip had gone surprisingly smoothly. In fact, thinking about it carefully, Wu Di felt that this anticlimactic feeling was quite normal. Xiaoxi herself was an eternal-grade intelligent core, and with the Origin World Crystal Core as a power source, her level was already far beyond any AI in this world. If even Xiaoxi couldn't handle Qiwan, then the difficulty of this world would be too absurd, and ordinary players wouldn't stand a chance. At the end of the day, his current strength had already far exceeded the normal standards of this dungeon. Especially in a world like this, with no limits on team size. He had far too many trump cards in his hand. Wu Di turned his gaze towards the window. Xiaoya was clinging to the glass, curiously watching the scenery rapidly receding outside, her small face filled with innocence. She didn't know yet that her destiny, as well as the destiny of this world, had just been completely altered without her realizing it. Looking at the little girl's well-behaved profile, Wu Di's brow furrowed unconsciously, and a wave of anxiety washed over him. He hadn't spent much time with Xiaoya, but the child was quiet, sensible, and very lovable. The problem was, the end of the dungeon was drawing closer and closer. What on earth should he do with Xiaoya? Chapter 331, Encirclement. It was exactly 8 o'clock in the morning. The RV was driving steadily across the desolate, scorched earth. Wu Di leaned back in the driver's seat, no longer looking at Xiaoya. He realized that although Xiaoya was only about 10 years old, her mind was extremely delicate. She seemed to have realized something as well. Without any clear solution in mind, Wu Di could only open the communication channel to understand the current situation outside. Countless messages were scrolling rapidly, almost all discussing the unusual movements of the natives. We're rich, we're rich. So many of the natives from small settlements have all left. They're all the old, weak, sick, and disabled. If we don't make a move now, when will we? How much energy crystal did you guys get? I've raided a few times and haven't found a single one. Did the natives take all the energy crystals with them? Are there any brothers following them? What exactly is in the south? With such a huge mobilization, could it be that an ultimate boss is about to appear? I followed them halfway and lost them. Their convoy is too fast, our junk cars can't keep up at all. But the direction is definitely due south. Selling purple quality rifles and ammunition at a low price. Already listed on the trading post, looking to exchange for a small amount of food and water. Don't miss this chance. Is it really going to be the final showdown? Today is already the 6th day. Tomorrow should be the final crisis. This shouldn't have anything to do with us, right? Are there still people trying to scam fools? Who among those who have survived until now doesn't have a purple quality weapon? Food and water are the hard currency now, okay? Dream on. When has the final day's crisis ever had nothing to do with us? If you don't prepare, just wait for death. Stop guessing. If you're afraid of dying, hurry up and find a place to hide. With such a massive mobilization, the shockwaves alone from the fighting could wipe us out. My supplies are running low. Anyone want to team up to raid small settlements? The ones left behind are old, weak, sick, or disabled, and have no combat power. It's a guaranteed profit. Maybe the last day of this world really has nothing to do with us. Just think about it. With so many players gathered together in this world, nothing has happened. If it were the previous stages, you'd have been wiped out in a single night. I've been following the native troops. We should be almost there. The converging native forces are getting larger and larger. Their speed has also slowed down. You can actually keep up with the natives. Are all your parts purple quality? This speed must be at least 300, right? So envious. I still have blue quality engines and tires, and I can't keep up at all. I'm looking for a few teammates to make one last fortune. But there are really a lot of weapons and equipment in this world. I'm really going to get rich. All kinds of messages were mixed together, making it a complete mess. Woody glanced at it for a few moments, and then closed the channel. He leaned back in his chair, his gaze fixed on the gray, hazy skyline in the distance. Though the natives had poured out in full force, all gathering towards the south, Woody felt that it was probably because Zero had opened the sky curtain wall. That the natives had satellites, so it was impossible for them not to have noticed. They must have detected the anomaly in the sky curtain long ago, which is why they mobilized all their forces and rushed here in such a hurry. Thinking of this, a faint smile curled at the corners of Woody's mouth. He wondered what kind of expression the natives would have when they arrived at their destination full of excitement, only to find that Chuan and Chen Guang had completely vanished. It should be quite spectacular. Boss, you checked the communication channel, right? Zhu Kexin leaned over, her tone smug. Do you think they were coming for Chuan and Chen Guang? Since we've already taken them out, they must be so disappointed. Lin Shi frowned and said with some concern, Big Brother Wu Di, looking at the chat in the communication channel, it seems we aren't far from the sky curtain. When we reach the gap in the wall later, will we happen to run into them? It would be troublesome if we get blocked inside. Miss Lin Shi, at the current speed, we will arrive at the sky curtain gap at 11:06. Xiao Shi's voice rang out in real time. Ah, what should we do then? We're not going to have to fight them again, are we? Lin Yu blinked. Xiao Yue, with Boss here, along with Zero and Xiao Shi who would dare to fight us. Which of the natives haven't we beaten up? Zhu Kexin put her arm around Lin Yue and said with an arrogant smile. Beside them, Xiao Ye grabbed the corner of Su Wanwan's clothes and asked in a low voice, Sister Wanwan, are other people going to fight us again? Su Wanwan immediately stroked her hair. It won't happen, Xiao Ye. Our car can turn invisible, you know. Even if a fight really breaks out, they are no match for us. Wu Di's gaze fell on the little girl's face. He frowned imperceptibly, but in the end, he didn't say anything else. It shouldn't be a big problem. We don't have any conflict with them. We just need to avoid them. Time passed slowly as they drove steadily. 3 hours flew by. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. Xiaoxi's notification sound rang in the cabin right on time. "Commander, we will reach the Sky Curtain Gap in 1,000 meters. It is detected that the gap has been completely blocked by obstacles, and there are a large number of armed units on the perimeter. Shall I initiate a strike to clear them?" Hearing this, everyone immediately crowded around the center console screen. On the screen, the huge gap in the wall that had been torn open by Zero was now tightly sealed by metal roadblocks, leaving not even a sliver of space. In the open area outside the gap, endless rows of armored vehicles in heavy mecha formations were neatly lined up, their dark cannon muzzles all aimed at the inside of the gap. Countless soldiers were fully armed, and the security was extremely tight. Looking from afar, it was a solid mass of black, full of oppressive pressure. "Damn, this is quite the setup." Zhu Kexin clicked her tongue. "So we just finished off the boss inside and turned around to find these people blocking the door. Who were they defending against? It's possible they are preventing whatever is inside from rushing out." Lin Shi shook her head. "According to Chen Guang, they don't know the situation inside yet. They probably saw the gap was broken, so they mobilized heavy troops to guard it." "Sister, what do you think we should do now? With so many people blocking the entrance, how are we supposed to get out? Should we just charge through?" Lin Yu asked Lin Shi. But after finishing, she looked at Wu Di excitedly. "They'd better be defending against those two artificial idiots, otherwise let Zero teach them a lesson." "Boss, don't you think so?" Zhu Kexin also looked at Wu Di excitedly and said. Just as everyone was discussing, Xiaoxi's voice sounded again. "Commander, an external communication request has been detected. Shall I connect it?" "Communication request?" Zhu Kexin widened her eyes, looking surprised. "No way. Didn't you already take care of Chen Guang, Xiaoxi? Could it be that guy didn't die completely and came back from the dead?" Lin Yu nodded as well, looking like she had seen a ghost. "Xiaoxi, don't tell me that Chen Guang and Qi Wan have been resurrected again." Chapter 332, Negotiation. The core programs of Qi Wan and Chen Guang have been completely formatted, and the underlying architecture has been entirely dismantled. There is no possibility of recovery. Lin Yu let out a sigh of relief and patted her chest. That's good. I thought we fought a fake boss. It must be the natives outside. I just don't know which faction it is." Wu Di looked at the image on the center console screen, his eyes calm. "Xiaoxi, connect it." "Received, Commander. Communication is connected." The next second, a steady, middle-aged male voice came through the communicator. "Mr. Wu Di, we meet again." Wu Di found the voice slightly familiar. Without overthinking it, he spoke directly. "Say what you have to say." "Mr. Wu Di is straightforward, so I won't beat around the bush." The other party's voice deepened. "The breach in the Sky Curtain was created by you, right? You've been in the Forbidden Zone for so long, you must have found quite a few things inside." Wu Di raised an eyebrow. "You've been guarding this place for so long, don't you know what's inside?" "To be honest, since the Sky Curtain was built 300 years ago, no one has ever walked out of this Forbidden Zone alive. You are the first people in 300 years to destroy the Sky Curtain, enter the Forbidden Zone, and make it out unscathed." "Hey, why should we tell you what we found inside?" Zhu Kexin was immediately displeased. "Just because you say it's a Forbidden Zone, it is. We go in and out as we please. Is that any of your business?" "Exactly," Lin Yu chimed in. "If you're so capable, why don't you go in and see for yourselves? Why are you blocking us?" The other party's tone turned cold. "Young ladies, don't speak too soon. The heritage of the great Qian Empire belongs to us. It has nothing to do with you outsiders. I advise you to hand over what you brought out from inside, and we can let you leave safely." "Yo, are you threatening us now?" Zhu Kexin laughed. "If you want to fight, let's fight. Do you think we're afraid of you?" Wu Di raised his hand to stop Zhu Kexin, who was about to speak again. He said in a calm tone into the communicator, "There is no heritage inside. Only two artificial intelligences, one named Chen Guang, one named Qi Wan. Both have been destroyed now. We didn't take anything. Believe it or not, that's up to you. Clear the way. Let us leave, and we can all live in peace." "Destroyed?" The other party clearly didn't believe him and sneered. Mr. Wu Dai, that lie is too clumsy. A forbidden zone that no one has been able to break for 300 years, and after one trip, you only found 2 artificial intelligences. Since you refused to cooperate, don't blame us for being impolite. Wu Di couldn't be bothered to waste any more breath. Xiao Shi, notify Zero. Prepare for battle. Received, Commander. The moment his voice fell, the space in the open area in front of the RV suddenly rippled with distortion. In the next second, a pitch-black figure 12 meters tall appeared out of thin air, hovering silently in mid-air. Its cold metal body glinted under the gray sky. Following that, spatial ripples spread out in layers. One after another, 5-meter-tall Xuanzhe warriors stepped out from the void, lining up in perfect formation behind Zero. All 82 mechs were in position, a dark, looming mass filled with murderous intent. The defensive line outside the breach was instantly thrown into chaos. The voice in the communicator also stopped abruptly, and it took several seconds before it sounded again. Mr. Wu Di, do you really want to take this step? These things were originally the heritage left by the great Qian Empire for future generations. They have nothing to do with you outsiders. The other party's tone softened slightly, yet remained confident. Furthermore, all outsiders on the continent are currently being hunted down. If you take action today, even if you manage to break through, the lives of other outsiders will not be easy in the future. Wow, threatening us again. Zhu Kexin scoffed. Are we fighting or not? If you don't have the guts to fight, then hurry up and clear the way. Stop dilly-dallying. Big Brother Wu Di, let Zero tear them all apart. I've never seen Zero in action before, Lin Yu shouted excitedly. The other side was silent for a few seconds. Then their tone suddenly shifted. Wait! Mr. Wu Dai, we can make a deal! Zhu Kexin's eyes lit up. She immediately leaned close to Wu Di and whispered excitedly, Boss, a deal! We're leaving this world tomorrow anyway, so why don't we scam them one last time and fleece them for all they're worth? Right. Lin Yu nodded repeatedly, her eyes gleaming. Big Brother Wu Di, let's get some more Qianyuan crystals. We can't even afford to feed the little tree anymore. Wu Di looked at the two of them in surprise. You don't mean the world tree, do you? Yeah, it's so much fun. After saying that, Lin Yu looked quite dejected. It's just that it hasn't eaten any crystals for many days, and I feel like the little tree isn't very happy anymore. Zhu Kexin spoke directly into the communicator in a loud voice. A deal? Sure. To be honest, we did bring out quite a few good things from inside. It just depends on whether you can bring out equivalent bargaining chips. The person on the other end of the communicator instantly perked up, their tone filled with undisguised surprise. Good. Wait a moment. We will prepare the trade supplies immediately. The communication was then cut off. Behind the defensive line outside the breach, in a temporarily erected military command tent, 3 people were gathered around a table, looking at the screen in front of them with varying expressions. What do you think? Chairman Chen Xuan of the Remnant Council spoke first, his voice low. Did these people really bring things out from the Forbidden Zone? Hard to say. One of the men in black shook his head slowly. It's been 300 years. No one has ever been able to come out of the Forbidden Zone alive. They not only went in, but also came out unscathed. They definitely aren't simple. As for what's really inside, no one knows. Who cares what's in there? Another burly man slammed his hand on the table and said, In any case, we can't let them just leave like this. If it really is the heritage of the great Qian, it absolutely cannot fall into the hands of these outsiders. If we have to, we'll just pretend to trade. And once we get the items, we'll take action. Chairman Chen Zhuan frowned and didn't speak immediately. Let's see what they want first. After a moment of silence, Chairman Chen Zhuan finally spoke. If the cost isn't high, trading for it is fine. If they make exorbitant demands, then we'll talk about other options. You should know they are very different. Chairman Chen is absolutely right. Courtesy first, force later. Let's see what their trump cards are first. The man in black nodded slightly and glanced at the burly man. Regardless of whether the deal is reached, I'll state my position first. The Tianyan sect will definitely not be the first to attack them. Unless you agree to go all out. Since you've both said so, I have no objections. However, They previously raided Wangyan town and have now seized the Empire's heritage. The Scavenger Alliance will definitely settle scores with them later, the burly man said bluntly. Chapter 333. Fight right after scamming them. Inside the RV at this moment, Shu Kexin clung to the back of the driver's seat and said excitedly, Wan, what do you think these people will offer to trade with us? Could there be some incredibly powerful, good stuff? That Marshall's skull was so powerful. Could there be other bones that can also increase attributes? Boss, if we collect all the bones, will there be some kind of set effect? Shu Kexin asked, shaking Wu Di's shoulder, seeming to get more and more excited as she spoke. Lin Yui immediately leaned in and said, Sister Zhu, didn't Chen Guang say before that there was only a skull left? My guess is it must be Qianyuan crystals. Ah, Xiao Yu, did it say that? How did I miss it? Shu Kexin was taken aback. Sister Zhu, Chen Guang said it before, don't you remember? Lin Yu immediately began discussing it with Shu Kexin. Su Wanwan stood to the side, her brow slightly furrowed. Ignoring Lin Yu and Shu Kexin, she said with a hint of worry in her voice, Big brother Wu Di, I can't help but feel that their attitude this time is a bit strange. Could there be some kind of trap? Wanwan, you're just being too cautious. Hearing Su Wanwan's words, Shu Kexin, who was still arguing, immediately looked over and waved her hand dismissively. With zero around, so what if there's a trap? Besides, we don't have anything to trade with them anyway. This is pure freeloading. We'll scam as much as we can. It's a guaranteed profit. Lin Chi stood nearby, rolling her eyes helplessly as she watched Shu Kexin and Lin Yu eagerly rubbing their hands together, but she said nothing. Wu Di leaned back against his seat, but he didn't feel as relaxed. The other party's attitude this time was far more aggressive than before. Had some unforeseen change occurred in the past 2 days that he didn't know about? A few minutes later, Xiaoxi's voice rang out again. Commander, the other party has sent another communication request. Connect it. The communication went through, and a middle-aged male voice immediately came from the other side. Mr. Wu Di, we have prepared the trade goods. We can begin at any time. Wu Di asked calmly, What goods? Mainly Qianyuan crystals, all from the stockpiles of our 3 great factions, the other party replied. How would you like to trade, Mr. Wu Di? You just say Qianyuan crystals, but what about the quantity? What about the quality? Lin Yue beat him to the punch. You can't expect to trade a pile of trash crystals for the items we brought out of the Forbidden Zone, can you? The other side fell silent for a moment before replying, 200 high-grade Qianyuan crystals and 10,000 low-grade ones. This is already the entire stockpile that our 3 great factions can scrape together. That's it? Although she didn't understand the difference between high-grade and low-grade as mentioned by the other party, Shu Kexin sneered immediately and said with a look of disgust, After all that talk, this is all you have. What about the Qianyuan mother crystals from our last trade? Pfft, this isn't even as much as we plundered last time. Worst case, we'll just plunder you guys a few more times. Lin Yue added mockingly. Wu Di's eyes were calm and undisturbed as he spoke flatly into the communicator. Is this what you call sincerity? The other party's voice instantly deepened, sounding somewhat more confident instead. Mr. Wu Di, Qianyuan mother crystals went extinct 300 years ago. You won't find more than a few across the entire continent. Being able to offer this much is already us doing our absolute best. He paused, his tone carrying an undisguised threat. Furthermore, Mr. Wu Di, you had better understand the situation. Right now, tens of thousands of people from the 3 great factions have surrounded this place completely. If we actually start fighting, even if you have a mecha, you might not be able to escape unscathed. Lin Yu's eyes darted around, and she leaned close to Wu Di's ear, whispering in a low voice, Big brother Wu Di, why don't we agree first? We don't have anything to give them anyway. We might as well scam the crystals first to feed little Tree. Wu Di glanced sideways at her. A cunning light shone in the young girl's eyes. He pondered for a couple of seconds and nodded slightly. These, the natives, had harbored ill intentions from the very beginning, blocking the path and making threats. Since they wanted to play dirty, there was no need for him to play by the rules either. We can trade, Wu Di said to the communicator. I don't want the low-grade crystals, Swap them all for high-grade ones. Make it 500, and the deal is on. The other side fell silent, clearly discussing it among themselves. After a dozen or so seconds, the voice came through again, sounding a bit like they were gritting their teeth. Fine, we agree. But let me warn you. The other party's tone was cold and warning. Don't play any tricks. Outside, we have the Ace Mecha Brigade of our remnant council. No matter how strong your mecha is, you will absolutely have no way to escape. Complete the trade honestly, and it will be better for everyone. Soon, the center console screen showed that the dense metal barricades at the gap slowly parted, leaving a narrow opening just wide enough for a single vehicle to pass. A heavy off-road vehicle slowly drove in from the outside, coming to a steady stop several dozen meters away from the RV. 2 fully armed soldiers jumped off the vehicle, carrying 5 metal cases. They stood guard on the spot, their gun barrels pointing vaguely in the direction of the RV. All of you stay in the vehicle, don't come down. Woody stood up and instructed in a deep voice. Be careful, boss. Big brother Woody, stay safe. Woody pushed open the car door and walked slowly toward them. His steps were steady and his expression showed no trace of emotion. The leading officer sized him up with an unfriendly look and said in a deep voice, Mr. Woody, all 500 gold-grade Qianyuan crystals are here. You can inspect the goods. Where is the item we want? You should be aware that we outsiders have independent storage spaces. Woody's tone was flat, devoid of any emotion. Once I finish inspecting the goods and confirm that the items and quantity are correct, I will naturally give you the item. The officer's brow furrowed, clearly not trusting him. He raised his hand to press the communication earpiece by his ear and whispered a few words, seemingly asking for instructions from the rear. A few seconds later, he lowered his hand and waved, signaling the 2 soldiers to open the cases. 4 full cases of Qianyuan crystals, each one crystal clear and glowing with a warm golden light, were stacked neatly inside the cases. Without a single word of nonsense, Woody stepped directly forward and reached out to inspect them. After confirming that the prompt popped up by the system indicated gold-grade Qianyuan crystals, the 4 metal cases, along with the crystals inside, vanished from the spot, all of them stored away into his personal space. The officer's face changed dramatically. He suddenly reached down to grab the pistol at his waist and barked sharply, What are you doing? Where is the item? Woody completely ignored him, turned around and left. He walked extremely fast, returning to the RV in just a few breaths, pulling open the door and sitting inside. Close the door. The car door shut instantly. Sitting in the driver's seat, Woody's eyes turned cold as he spoke into the communicator to issue his command in a deep voice. Xiaoxi, notify Zero to begin a full-scale attack. Chapter 334. Zero takes action. The instant the command was issued, the air on the battlefield suddenly froze. 82 Xuanzhe warriors soared into the air without warning. They rapidly adjusted their formation mid-air, lining up neatly into 3 offensive arrays without making a single redundant sound, like a silent torrent of black steel. The next second, their shoulder-mounted energy cannons simultaneously lit up with a crimson glow, and streaks of high-energy beams pierced the gloomy sky, blasting precisely toward the armored clusters outside the gap. Woody watched this flawlessly disciplined tactical array on the center console screen, his eyes shifting slightly. He instantly recalled Zero's ability description. Possesses top-tier battlefield deduction capabilities and can independently formulate optimal tactical plans. Looking at the orderly formation, Woody didn't overthink it. Instead, he looked at Zero, wanting to see how Zero would handle things and whether it would take action. The native forces outside the gap in the sky curtain were clearly well prepared. Ear-piercing alarms instantly rang across the entire position, and dense swarms of armored vehicles on the ground simultaneously turned their barrels, sending countless shells whistling through the air with trailing plumes of fire. In the sky, densely packed mechas took off one after another, forming tight combat formations as they charged head-on. For a moment, explosions, energy collisions, and the tearing of metal intertwined, causing ears to ring as the entire sky and earth were enveloped in fire and smoke. However, their absolute advantage in numbers did not bring the native forces the slightest chance of victory. The armor strength of the Xuanjia warriors far exceeded their expectations. When shells struck their hulls, they could only kick up a shower of tiny sparks. Under Zero's tactical deployment, the Xuanjia warriors split into multiple routes, either flanking and dividing the enemy or focusing fire on specific targets. The mass-produced mechas of the natives were like paper, easily destroyed. Every volley from the shoulder-mounted energy cannons precisely destroyed several armored vehicles. As soon as the two sides made head-on contact, the natives' line was forcefully torn open with a massive gap, and their casualty numbers climbed rapidly. And at the very center of the battlefield, Zero was the true, absolute core. Its 12-meter-tall pitch-black body floated quietly in mid-air. It didn't use any weapons, nor did it even make any redundant movements. Whenever a slight ripple appeared in the space around it, its figure would vanish into thin air, appearing directly in the densest area of enemy mechas the very next second. Its massive metal fists swung out simply, without any fancy moves, yet they carried a terrifying, world-ending power. Wherever the wind of its fists passed, the air was compressed into visible white shock waves that blasted outward. The mechas hit directly by its fists didn't even have time to react before exploding, turning into metal fragments that scattered across the sky. With a single punch, all combat units within a few meters would be destroyed by the shockwave, leaving not even a single intact wreck behind. It was like a grim reaper roaming the battlefield. With every space teleportation, it was bound to wipe out a cluster of firepower, never missing once. Inside the RV, everyone stared intently at the combat footage on the center console screen, holding their breath. "Oh my God, Zero is way too fierce," Shukexin murmured to herself subconsciously, dumbfounded. "I knew Zero was strong before, but I didn't expect it to be this ridiculous. This is practically a humanoid weapon of mass destruction." After speaking, she immediately looked at Wudi and said resentfully, "Boss, don't forget about my mecha." Lin Yu covered her mouth, her eyes wide as she murmured, "Big brother Wudi, is Zero really this powerful? Can our RV withstand a single punch from Zero?" Lin Shi and Su Wanwan also stood nearby, watching the devastating black figure on the screen, their faces filled with shock. They had long known that Wudi had many trump cards, but they had never imagined that Zero's combat power would be formidable to this extent. Hearing Zhu Kexin's words, they both chuckled softly. "Xiao Yu, what nonsense are you thinking about?" Lin Shi said, slapping Lin Yu directly on the head. "Sister, if you keep slapping me, I'll turn stupid. I was just wondering." Lin Yu immediately covered her head and said, unconvinced. Leaning back in the driver's seat, Wudi's calm gaze fell upon Zero's figure. He hadn't let Xiaoxi take action. This was the first true large-scale battle where he could let loose since obtaining Zero. Previously, either the enemies were too weak to warrant using Zero, or the circumstances were special, offering no opportunity for it to unleash its full potential. Today, using this battlefield, he wanted to figure out the true strength level of the Eternal Grade Zero. Only by knowing Zero's upper limit could he accurately judge just how much power his Titan's Wrath mecha could unleash in the subsequent stages. The battle had lasted for less than 10 minutes, yet the native forces had already suffered over 1/3 casualties, and their front line was retreating in defeat. Just when Wu Dai thought this battle would end quickly without suspense, the image on the center console screen suddenly changed. In the airspace behind the enemy position, another batch of brand-new mechas took off. This batch of mechas was a size larger than the ordinary mass-produced ones, standing about 3 meters tall. Their body lines were sleeker and sharper, and their surfaces were covered in a layer of fine, dark gold patterns, completely different from the previous mass-produced mechas. Their speed was more than a level faster, almost turning into afterimages as they maneuvered nimbly through the gunfire. Wudi's eyes shifted slightly as he muttered to himself in a low voice, "Is this what they call their ace mecha regiment?" The addition of these ace mechas instantly changed the one-sided situation on the battlefield. They were clearly equipped with higher spec energy weapons, and their shooting accuracy and power far exceeded those of ordinary mechas. Several concentrated beams hit the weak joints of the Xuanjia warriors in succession, actually penetrating their outer armor and leaving deep, scorched melt marks. Soon, 2 Xuanjia warriors were surrounded by over a dozen ace mechas. Their bodies were damaged in multiple places, their movements became visibly sluggish, and they were on the verge of being completely destroyed. At this critical juncture, space rippled once more. Zero's figure appeared in front of those 2 Xuanjia warriors without warning. It casually waved its hand, using its broad metal palm to block and completely deflect the incoming energy beams. Not even a single scratch was left on its palm. Immediately after, it reached out to grab the 2 damaged Xuanjia warriors. The space around them warped slightly, and all 3 figures vanished from the battlefield simultaneously, clearly having been pulled into its internal space. On the battlefield that followed, whenever a Xuanjia warrior was about to suffer a fatal blow, Zero's figure would appear right on time. It would either shatter the incoming enemy mecha with a single punch or timely retrieve the heavily damaged Xuanjia warrior, its timing precise to the millimeter. The battle, which had gradually ground to a stalemate, was once again firmly controlled by Wu Di's side due to Zero's perfect safety net. Meanwhile, the player's communication channel had completely exploded with excitement. Chapter 335: Defection in the Face of Battle. Meanwhile, the player's communication channel had completely exploded. A few players hiding in the distance to watch the battle were sending sporadic live updates, while the vast majority of others were clueless, flooding the screen with questions. Is anyone in the south? I just heard several loud bangs, the ground even shook. What's going on? Has the fighting already started? I've arrived. Your war correspondent here to report it's absolute madness in the south. It's all mecha and heavy artillery. The flames are shooting up into the sky. By the way, there's a great wall here that you guys haven't seen. It's freaking insane. Who's fighting whom? Is it the mechanical entities again? What do they look like? I've seen it all now. Damn, this great wall is ridiculous. I can't see the end of it. It's probably 100 meters high. And the army of the natives is massive. Dense formations of mecha and armored vehicles. The natives' army is fighting another group of tall black mecha. There aren't many of the black ones. Only a few dozen, but they're ridiculously fierce, suppressing the natives' troops. It's brutal. Everyone knows how fierce the natives' mecha were when they were chasing us before, so how can they be this weak? Being suppressed. Just how fierce must those mechanical entities be? Are they different from the ones we encountered before? There's also a giant black mecha on the other side, like a small mountain, and it can teleport out of thin air. A single punch can smash a whole group. It's like cutting vegetables. Teleportation. Holy crap, could this be the final boss of this world? Did the natives come out in full force just to intercept it? Forget who it is. After such a huge battle, there must be wreckage everywhere. Is anyone forming a team to go scavenge? We might be able to snag some purple or even gold-tier equipment. Scavenge? I advise you to run as far as you can. With that level of artillery fire, the shock waves alone could blast you and your vehicle into ash. Just honestly hide and listen to the noise. Going over there is purely suicide. The communication channel was in an uproar, with some believing it and others not. Some eager to take advantage, and others watching coldly and advising people not to throw their lives away. The vast majority only dared to guess from far away, having no idea of the true situation on the battlefield, and even less aware that the Black Mecha unit crushing the 3 great factions' coalition army had only one master. On the battlefield, the speed of the frontal collapse far exceeded the natives' expectations. Seeing that even the Ace Rune Mecha unit was gradually unable to withstand Zero's offensive and casualties were mounting, the 3 people in the command tent could finally no longer sit still. We can't keep dragging this out. The burly man from the Scavenger Alliance slammed his hand on the table and roared, "All long-range units, focus fire on that RV, blow them up, and I don't believe these mecha will still be able to jump around." Chairman Chen Xuan furrowed his brows, hesitated for a few seconds, and finally nodded with a cold face. "Order all artillery positions to aim at the RV in the gap and fire a volley." The moment the order was given, Dozens of heavy artillery pieces behind the position simultaneously turned their barrels. Accompanied by a deafening roar, a dense barrage of shells, trailing long flames, slammed toward the direction of the RV like a rainstorm. But before the shells could get close to the RV, Zero's figure in mid-air suddenly flashed. Spatial ripples flickered continuously as it teleported through the artillery fire, its massive metal palm waving casually to detonate swaths of shells in mid-air. Fireballs exploded in the sky like blooming fireworks, and the vast majority of the shells couldn't even touch the edge of the RV. Only a few stray shells broke through Zero's interception and headed straight for the roof of the vehicle. High-speed ammunition detected, activating Ludun 1130 close-in weapon system. Xiaoxi's voice rang out calmly. The next second, tongues of fire erupted from the top of the RV, and dense bullets formed an airtight metal barrage, instantly intercepting and detonating the remaining shells in the air. The shock waves of the explosions hit the RV's hull without any reaction. The vehicle did not budge. Inside the cabin, Zhu Kexin lay by the window watching the fireballs exploding outside, not only unafraid but rather excited. "Is that all you've got? You can't even touch our car, and you still dare to come and block the door?" Lin Yue also nodded, looking smug. "Sister Zhu, Xiaoxi hasn't even made a real move yet. Just relying on Zero is almost enough to finish them all off." Lin Shi looked at the two of them, excited, and shook her head helplessly, while Su Wanwan crouched down to hug the pale-faced Xiao Ya, softly comforting her. Such a scene was indeed difficult for a little girl to accept. Just then, on the center console screen, hundreds of mecha suddenly changed direction and charged fiercely toward the RV, disregarding casualties. "Hey! Boss, they're charging over!" Zhu Kexin's eyes lit up, and just as she was about to say to let Zero finish them all off directly, Xiaoxi's voice rang out first. "Commander, hostile mechanical units detected entering control range. System intrusion and permission takeover complete." As soon as the words fell, a scene appeared on the battlefield that left all of the native soldiers dumbfounded. Those fearless rune mecha charging at the very front suddenly paused in unison. The next second, the energy cannons in their hands abruptly turned, aimed without hesitation at the friendly troops behind them, and pulled the triggers. Several powerful energy beams shot out instantly, catching the mecha behind them off guard. Several mecha didn't have time to react and were hit on the spot, exploding into towering fireballs. "What's going on? Friendly fire?" The natives' position was in chaos. The soldiers were confused, completely unable to understand why their own ace mecha would suddenly turn against them. In the rear command tent, the three of them watched the monitor, their faces instantly turning ashen. "Bastards! What the hell is going on?" The burly man stood up abruptly, pointing at the screen, trembling with anger. "Why are our mecha defecting? Is the technical department useless?" The man in black from the Tainyan sect also looked extremely grim and said nothing. Chairman Chen Xuan stared fixedly at the unscathed RV on the screen, his fingers tightly clenched into fists, his knuckles turning white. From the rout of the mecha unit, to the long-range artillery being intercepted, to now their own mecha being controlled by the opponent. One wrong step, and every step was wrong. He originally thought that with the three great factions joining forces, even if the opponent had mecha, they could crush them with numerical superiority. But now it seemed they had underestimated the opponent's strength from the very beginning and overestimated their own trump cards. Although he had long known that this group was not easy to deal with, the current situation still exceeded his expectations. "Chairman, what do we do now?" the burly man asked urgently. "If we keep fighting like this, our men are going to be wiped out here." Chairman Chen Xuan took a deep breath, his eyes so gloomy they were almost dripping with malice. He watched the 12-meter black shadow roaming like a grim reaper on the screen, then looked at the friendly mecha that had turned their guns, and squeezed a few words through his teeth. "Retreat! Everyone retreat!" Chapter 336. Ceasefire Bargaining Chips. "Retreat! Everyone retreat!" As soon as Chairman Chen Xuan finished speaking, the black-robed person beside him frowned and spoke in a deep voice. "Chairman Chen, that giant mecha now possesses spatial teleportation abilities. Once our troops break formation, they will only be picked off one by one. Not many will be able to escape." After hesitating for a moment, the black-robed person continued. "Without the initiative, given the current situation, it's not like we can just retreat whenever we want, right? This won't work. That won't work. Are we just supposed to wait here and be slaughtered?" The burly man slammed the table, his face full of impatience. "We can't fight them, we can't retreat, we can't just kneel and beg them." After finishing, a flash of helplessness and hesitation crossed the burly man's face. Chairman Chen Zhuan's expression was extremely grim, his fingertips pressing hard against the tabletop. He certainly knew the risks of retreating, but continuing to fight would only lead to a worse outcome. After a few seconds of silence, he suddenly looked up. "Connect to their communication channel. I want to talk to Wu Di." "What the hell is there to talk about now?" The burly man was stunned. "If we keep fighting, who knows how many of these people will die here?" Chairman Chen Zhuan closed his eyes, his tone heavy. "Let's cease fire first and see if we can satisfy them with supplies." "Isn't that exactly what these outsiders are after?" The black-robed person nodded slightly, offering no objection. Although the burly man looked extremely unwilling, he didn't say anything, just let out a resentful huff and turned his head away. Inside the RV, Xiaoxi's notification sound rang out at the right moment. "Commander, the enemy has sent a communication request. Lin Yu, I bet they're definitely afraid of us now." Xu Kexin immediately patted Lin Yu on the shoulder and said excitedly, "Connected." Wu Di leaned back against the chair and said directly. The moment the connection was established, a voice came through, sounding less aggressive than before, but more grave. "Mr. Wu Di, I am Chairman Chen Xuan of the Remnant Council. Shall we talk?" "Talk about what?" "Mr. Wu Di, I admit your mecha is very strong, and our troops truly cannot stop you." Chairman Chen Xuan spoke slowly. "But you must also be clear. If we really go all out and focus fire on your RV, it is impossible for you to come out unscathed. Continuing to fight will only result in mutual destruction. We are willing to provide compensation to cease hostilities now. How about it?" Xu Kexin leaned in, covering her mouth as she sneered softly. "They were just shouting about fighting and killing a moment ago, and now they're here begging for peace. That's a quick change of face." Lin Yu nodded along, looking gloating. "Exactly, why didn't they do that earlier?" Lin Shi shook her head lightly from the side and leaned into Wu Di's ear, whispering, "Big brother Wu Di, what they said isn't entirely unreasonable. If we really push them into a corner and they fight to the death, we might win, but there's no need to invite unnecessary trouble. Our original goal is to leave the sky curtain. There's no need to fight them to the bitter end." Su Wanwan, hugging Xiaoya, also chimed in softly. "That's right. Xiaoya is still in the RV. Continuing to fight isn't a solution." Wu Di pondered for a moment, then spoke into the communicator. "We can cease fire. Xiaoxi, notify Zero to pause the attack." "Received, Commander." On the battlefield, the remaining fewer than 30 Xuanjia warriors all stopped their movement simultaneously, and Zero, hovering in mid-air, also stopped in place and ceased fire. The battlefield, previously filled with artillery fire, instantly fell silent, with only smoke slowly drifting. "Now we can talk about compensation." Wu Di's tone was flat. "My mecha has suffered significant damage, and my people have been frightened. If the compensation doesn't meet my expectations, we'll just keep fighting." As soon as these words were spoken, the burly man in the command tent exploded on the spot, slamming toward the communicator and roaring, "Bullshit! What kind of losses could you possibly have? We are the ones suffering heavy losses. Hundreds of mechas are gone, the artillery positions are ruined, and you still have the nerve to say you have losses." Although Wu Di was curious about who this was, he didn't ask further, simply saying to himself, "Not satisfied? Then let's keep fighting. We'll fight until you are satisfied." "You." The burly man's face turned red with anger. "Do you really think we have no way to deal with you? If it weren't for the things in the Forbidden Zone, why would we even—" Halfway through, he suddenly stopped abruptly, as if realizing he had let something slip, and forcibly swallowed the rest of his words. The tent went instantly quiet. Chairman Chen Xuan and the black-robed person's expressions changed simultaneously. Wu Di's eyes narrowed slightly. "Things in the Forbidden Zone?" Jiwan and Chen Guang had both been completely destroyed, and the core energy sources couldn't be dismantled. Apart from empty base shells, what else could be in there? These natives had guarded it for 300 years, and even though they couldn't get in, they kept thinking about what was inside, even going so far as to mobilize all the forces of the three great factions to block this place. Could there be a secret deep in the forbidden zone that he hadn't discovered? But if there really was something more important, why not fight him to the death? Listening to what he said, it sounded like they still had trump cards, so why wouldn't they use their ultimate hidden cards? Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but on the surface Wu Di remained calm, as if he hadn't heard that slip of the tongue. "Why did you stop talking?" Zhu Kexin mocked loudly from the side. "If you have the guts, keep talking. If you can't come up with a solution, you just talk tough. Are you just like someone else, all bark and no bite?" After finishing, Zhu Kexin winked at Lin Shi and Su Wanwan. "You can't beat us, so what's the use of talking tough?" "Right, Sister Shu?" Lin Yu chimed in. Lin Shi and Su Wanwan blushed and glared fiercely at Zhu Kexin in unison. Wu Di spoke calmly, his voice transmitting through the communicator. "You had better think carefully. How do you know this is our full strength?" As the words fell, the other side instantly fell into a dead silence. The three people, including Chairman Chen Zhuan, exchanged expressionless glances. After more than 10 seconds of silence, Chairman Chen Zhuan's voice sounded again, carrying a trace of suppressed exhaustion. "Mr. Wu Di, we need to discuss the compensation plan internally. Please wait a moment. We will contact you again later." "Very well." As Wu Di finished speaking, Xiaoxi immediately cut the communication. The atmosphere in the RV instantly relaxed. Lin Shi reached out and ruffled Lin Yu's hair, saying helplessly, You're getting more and more wild now. You haven't learned anything good from following Sister Zhu." "Sister, I haven't." Lin Yue stuck out her tongue and hid behind Zhu Kexin. Su Wanwan, sitting nearby, laughed softly. "Actually, it's nothing. Lin Yu is fine the way she is. The world today doesn't care about social niceties." "Exactly." Zhu Kexin wrapped her arm around Lin Yu and said, lifting her chin, "Might makes right, you know." After finishing with a playful tone, Zhu Kexin glanced triumphantly at Wu Di. "Boss, what do you think?" Wu Di glanced at her, his tone flat. "You're the one who stirs up the most trouble?" Zhu Kexin wasn't afraid at all, leaning in and winking. "Right, boss. You think so too, don't you? Besides, with so many girls here, we have to be tough." Chapter 337, Energy Compensation. Wu Di couldn't be bothered to entertain Zhu Kexin's teasing anymore, so he simply turned his head to look out the window, letting the others chatter away beside him. Zhu Kexin pulled Lin Yu along, excitedly speculating about what kind of compensation the natives would bring out next. "Little Yu, the natives won't learn their lesson unless you give them a good beating. They think we're easy to bully. Next time we run into people like this, just charge in and be done with it," Zhu Kexin said to Lin Yu with an expression that seemed to ask, "Did you learn that?" Lin Yu nodded repeatedly, her face full of agreement. "Sister Zhu, what do you think they'll bring out this time? It would be best if they brought more gold-quality Chanyuan crystal. I wonder what changes would happen if we fed them to the little tree." As Lin Yu spoke, she looked at Wu Di with anticipation. Previously, all the gold-quality Qianyuan crystal had been collected by Wu Di, and the world tree hadn't gotten a single one. Lin Yi, who went to spend time with the world tree every day, was genuinely expectant and curious. Wu Di leaned against the driver's seat, his fingertips rubbing against the armrest, but his thoughts drifted far away. Today was already the 6th day since entering this world. According to the game's time rules, tomorrow would be the 7th day, which was also the final deadline. What kind of changes would tomorrow bring, or would a new crisis emerge? Originally, it hadn't been a big deal, but during the call just now, that sentence the other party accidentally blurted out had been lingering in his mind. What exactly did the thing in the restricted area refer to? Especially the other party's attitude of, "I have a trump card. I just don't want to fight you head-on," which left Wu Di quite shocked. Regarding Zero's battle just now, Woody admitted that even wearing Titan's Wrath, he would not be a match for it, especially Zero's teleportation, which had no warning at all and left no way to react. Could the natives really stand up to such an existence? Then, how powerful was their trump card exactly? The other party clearly held a trump card but refused to use it. Were they wary of some kind of restriction, or was the time not yet right? Countless questions swirled in his mind, and for a moment it was hard to sort them out. Just as Wu Di was pondering, Xiao Shi's notification sound rang out again. "Commander, the enemy has sent another communication request. Connect." The communication line connected, and Chairman Chen Xuan's calm voice immediately came through. "Mr. Wu Di, after our discussion, the compensation plan has been finalized. We can offer 3 Qianyuan Mother Crystal, plus 1,000 high-quality Qianyuan Crystal as compensation for the ceasefire." As soon as he finished speaking, Shu Kexin immediately leaned toward the communicator and scoffed. 3 Mother Crystal? 1,000 crystals. Are you trying to brush off a beggar? If you had offered this earlier, we might have let it slide, but now that you can't win, the price isn't the same anymore. Lin Yu also followed up, asking for an exorbitant amount. "It's too little. At the very least, double it. What we used up just now is more than this. Do you know how much we lost? Do you know how expensive our mechs are? This little bit doesn't even cover our losses." Chairman Chen Xuan was silent on the other end for a moment, seemingly weighing the pros and cons. Wu Di raised his hand to gently signal the two to stop for a moment, then spoke into the communicator in a deep voice. "The number of Qianyuan Mother Crystal remains the same, but add 200 more high-quality crystals. Deal." Chairman Chen Xuan hesitated for a moment, then finally agreed. "Very well, we will add the 200 crystals. The supplies will be sent over shortly." Immediately after, Chairman Chen Xuan changed the subject and threw out another condition. "Mr. Wu Di, if you are willing to hand over the great Qian Empire relics you obtained from the restricted area, we can add another batch of rare supplies. The reward will be far more generous than it is now." Hearing this, Shu Kexin's eyes lit up. She was just about to follow the lead to continue setting a trap to swindle the other party, and Lin Yue was also preparing to chime in, but Wu Di raised his hand and pressed down on both of them, stopping their words. His tone was flat, leaving no room for negotiation. There were only 2 artificial intelligences inside the restricted area, and they have both been destroyed. I did not take any relics out. If you don't believe me, you are welcome to lead a team in to search for yourselves. Although I don't know what you are looking for, it must still be where it was. Chairman Chen Xuan clearly didn't want to believe it, and wanted to continue persuading him. But Wu Di didn't give him any extra time. "After the compensation supplies are delivered, move the roadblocks immediately and clear the gap in the sky curtain. We are leaving here." "Understood." Chairman Chen Xuan replied helplessly. A moment later, the metal roadblocks at the gap in the sky curtain slowly moved to the sides, and the passage that had been blocked for so long finally opened up again. Several transport vehicles drove into the gap, delivering the crates loaded with Qianyuan Mother Crystal and crystals to the vicinity of the RV. After Wu Di confirmed that all the supplies were correct, he ordered the RV to start and slowly drove toward the outside of the gap. The moment the communication was cut off, Shu Kexin immediately spoke up. "Boss, why didn't you swindle another round just now? These people definitely still have plenty of good things. What a pity. Sister Shu, what if they decided to go down with us in a fight to the death?" Su Wanwan said softly. "Sister Wanwan, they can't beat us. Zero was so fierce just now. If it had been a little later, Zero would have definitely dismantled the other side," Lin Yu said with a proud expression. "Little Yu, what if the other side has other means? You only have one life." Hearing Lin Shi's words, Shu Kexin and Lin Yu fell into thought, and the interior of the RV quieted down. Meanwhile, the player's public communication channel was flooding with messages again, with countless notifications popping up continuously. "It seems like things have ended in the south. The sound of artillery fire has stopped completely. It looks like the fighting is over. Is anyone close by? Tell us what's happening. I don't dare to get any closer. Who actually won? Did the natives win, or did that group of black mechs win? Are there any brothers who observed it up close? Tell us about the battle situation. What was the final result? Both sides stopped fighting, and those black mechs have all disappeared. What a pity. I was originally thinking of going over to scavenge some mech wreckage after the fight. It might have been usable, but now that's out of the question. Forget about the wreckage. Supplies are the real necessity right now. Are there any big shots selling food and drinking water? I'm buying at a high price. We can negotiate the price. My water supply is bottoming out. If I can't find supplies, I won't be able to make it to tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 7th day. I don't know what the final day's crisis will be, and I'm feeling really panicked. These natives are really ruthless. If we were to go up against them, they'd beat the shit out of us. I wonder what else is coming tomorrow. The players in the channel were inquiring about the outcome of the battle at the Sky Curtain while starting to discuss the situation for tomorrow. Anxiety and curiosity were intertwined, and messages kept scrolling by, one after another. Meanwhile, Woody drove the RV, slowly exiting the gap in the Sky Curtain and returning to the scorched earth outside. Xiaoxi, drive away from here at full speed, but don't go too far. Chapter 338. Transforming the domain space. After the RV drove away from the gap in the Sky Curtain, it did not speed away at full capacity. Instead, it slowed down. Zhu Kexin leaned against the window, looked back, turned her head to look at Wu Di, and said with a look of regret, "Boss, are we just leaving like this? They were nothing special." Lin Yu also leaned over and said with a greedy look, "They brought out so many things just like that. They must have more." Lin Shi was on the side, gently shaking her head. "What are you two thinking? Didn't Big Brother Wu Di say he wouldn't go far?" Su Wanwan also softly added, "Besides, we just fought them and collected compensation. Following them so brazenly is too conspicuous. The natives can track our location, and staying too close might provoke them." Wu Di nodded slightly, his gaze falling on the center console screen, his tone calm. "If it were me, having been beaten, lost face, and paid compensation, I wouldn't just let it go so easily. We still don't know their trump cards, so there's no need to get close and fight head-on. For now, there is no clear target. Let's watch their movements first." Wu Di paused and instructed Xiaoxi, "Xiaoxi, find a hidden spot to stop 2 kilometers ahead." "Received, Commander." The RV quickly turned behind a low hill and stopped, using the terrain for cover. Zhu Kexin peeked out the window, then looked down at the radar screen and pouted. "Stopping here? You can't see anything. It's 2 kilometers away. You can't even see shadows. The radar can't pick them up, and you can't see any movements." "Yeah, Big Brother Wu Di," Lin Yu nodded, looking puzzled. "We can't discover anything by stopping here. Why are we hiding here?" Lin Shi and Su Wanwan also cast curious glances, obviously not understanding Wu Di's plan. The corner of Wu Di's mouth twitched imperceptibly, and he said calmly, "No need to rush to look. Just wait for now. Keep an eye on the messages in the communication channel." He naturally had his own considerations. They had just fallen out, fought a battle, and swindled a sum of compensation from the other side. Turning around and following them brazenly would make anyone bristle with anger. Since the other side dared to hint that they had trump cards, they must have something to rely on. If they were truly forced into a desperate fight, even if they could win in the end, it would inevitably lead to complications. Tomorrow is the 7th day, and no one knows what will happen on the final day. Preserving strength and waiting to see how things develop is the safest choice. Oh, right! There are those players. Zhu Kexin's eyes lit up, and she instantly realized. Many people are hiding around watching the fun. They will definitely talk about the situation in the channel. We can just look at the channel. But, Lin Yu scratched her head. Those players don't dare to get close. They are far away. What can they see clearly? No need to see the details clearly. As long as we know their general movements, whether they are staying in place or making other moves, that is enough. After saying this, Wu Di stood up. "I'm going into the domain space to see what effect the golden quality Qianyuan crystal has on the world tree." I'm going too. Lin Yu was the first to jump up. "Boss, I'm going to see what the world tree looks like too. This is a treasure. Zhu Kexin also immediately leaned over. Lin Shi and Su Wanwan looked at each other, and Lin Shi said, "We won't go in. We'll leave 2 people outside to keep watch in case there's a situation, so we can react in time." "That's fine. Call me immediately if there is a situation." Wu Di nodded and walked straight toward the domain space, with Zhu Kexin and Lin Yu following closely behind, their figures disappearing inside the cabin. Inside the domain space, soft daylight fell. The black soil underfoot was soft. The world tree in the center stood quietly, and the tender green leaves swayed gently. Wu Di took out 200 golden Qianyuan crystals and piled them at the base of the world tree. As soon as the crystalline golden crystals landed, they emitted a warm halo of energy. The root system of the world tree seemed to have a life of its own, squirming slightly as it spread over and wrapped around the crystals one by one. Visibly, the golden crystals melted gradually at a slow but steady speed, turning into pure energy that was completely absorbed by the root system. As energy continuously poured in, the trunk of the world tree grew taller and thicker at a speed visible to the naked eye. The originally slender branches stretched out, and new leaves spread out in layers. In just a moment, it had grown more than a meter taller, and the canopy had become much fuller. A fresh and gentle scent slowly spread, and even the surrounding air seemed to have become much sweeter. Wow, it really grew taller. Lin Yu leaned forward in surprise and carefully touched the new tender leaves. "Big brother Wu Di, sister Shu, do you feel that the air here is different? It smells so comfortable." "Indeed." Zhu Kexin took a deep breath and looked at the world tree with amazement. "It feels much fresher than the air outside. Staying here makes my whole body feel comfortable. Goodness, this wouldn't really turn into the world tree from myths, would it?" "Boss, do you think this world tree will produce water of life? Will there be elves hatching from it?" "Sister Zhu, what is the water of life? Can trees also hatch elves?" "Xiao Yue, haven't you read novels usually?" "Sister Zhu, how did you know? And also, are elves the Western kind?" Zhu Kexin and Lin Yi sat by the world tree, discussing it one sentence after another. Wu Di looked at the thriving world tree, and his eyes softened a bit. At this rate, as long as there were enough Qianyuan crystals, the world tree would soon be able to grow, and the ecology of the domain space might really be able to be perfected. This was just with golden quality Qianyuan crystals, and it could grow so much. If he provided it with an eternal grade or even a law-level energy crystal, to what extent could it grow? When the tree grows up later, the soil here should also slowly become more fertile. Lin Yue sat on the ground, poked the black soil under her feet, and suddenly looked up. "Big brother Wu Di, do you think there will be a small river or lake here in the future? Having trees but no water feels like it's missing something." Zhu Kexin also chimed in. "Yeah, having mountains and water makes it look proper. It's a pity that this is just a flat piece of land, without even a puddle." Wu Di heard this. His gaze swept over the vast land under his feet, and his heart suddenly stirred. If there is no lake, why not just dig one? He had never studied how deep the soil layer of the domain space was, but digging a small lake shouldn't be a difficult task. Those engineering robots he had harvested from the base weren't meant to be just decorations. The water resources in the RV were also always sufficient, and the water produced by the atmospheric water collection unit every day had never run out. As long as it was accumulated, this lake might really be feasible. Chapter 339, Space Design. Having made up his mind, Wu Di didn't delay any longer. He turned and walked toward the exit of the domain space. "Big brother Wu Di, what's wrong?" Lin Yu was chatting excitedly with Zhu Kexin. Seeing Wu Di suddenly move, she quickly stood up and jogged after him. Zhu Kexin followed behind. One after the other, they followed Wu Di's figure back into the RV carriage. The aroma of food was wafting through the carriage. Lin Shi was standing in front of the stove preparing lunch. Su Wanwan was helping pass the seasonings from the side. And Xiaoya was also nearby, staring unblinkingly at the stir-fry in the wok, her little face full of anticipation. "Big brother Wu Di, lunch will be ready soon. Just wait a little bit and we can eat," Su Wanwan turned around and saw them, saying with a smile. Her gaze landed on Lin Yue, who was rushing over, and she added helplessly, Xiao Yu, don't crowd around. Be careful not to get splashed by the oil, just wait obediently. I know, Sister Wanwan. Lin Yue stuck out her tongue and quickly caught up with Wu Di. Wu Di nodded and said nothing more, turning to continue toward the driver's cab. Xiao Shi, can you remotely connect to the engineering robots in the domain space and issue commands to them? Yes, Commander. I can transmit signals by connecting to all permissions of the engineering robots, and I can also synchronously stream back real-time footage. Xiao Shi's voice rang out immediately. That's good. Wu Di tapped lightly on the center console. Plan it out. Dig a lake 10 meters long, 10 meters wide, and 2 meters deep on the east side of the existing vegetable patch. Start construction now. If there are any problems, let me know. Understood, Commander. Regional mapping and path planning are underway. The command has been dispatched to the engineering robot units. The real-time footage from the engineering robots has been synchronized to the center console screen. Following Xiao Shi's prompt, the center console screen switched to a clear image. The engineering robots, which were originally in the corner of the domain space, started up one after another and began breaking ground. Commander, 10 engineering robots have been deployed for construction, which is the optimal plan. Based on current operational efficiency, the project is expected to be fully completed in 1 hour and 13 minutes. Xiao Shi reported the exact time. Wu Di watched the steadily progressing construction on the screen and nodded slightly. Previously, he had only regarded the domain space as a place for storage and a temporary resting spot. Now, the World Tree was clearly driving changes in the domain space. As long as they planned and built it slowly, this place could be completely transformed into a stable rear base. From planting trees to digging a lake, and then to more facilities in the future, taking it step by step, the potential of this independent space could finally be slowly unlocked. Brother Wu Di, what is this doing? A soft voice came from nearby. Wu Di turned his head and saw that Xiaoya had approached the center console at some point. Her little face was full of curiosity, and she was craning her neck to look at the screen. Her past caution and fear were completely gone from her face. They are engineering robots, digging a small pond inside. Wu Di softened his voice a bit and pointed at the screen. Once it's dug, it will be filled with water. Xiaoya can go swimming in it. Xiaoya let out a soft wow, her eyes shining as she stared at the center console screen. Seeing Xiaoya's reaction, Wu Di couldn't help but reach out and pinch the little girl's cheek. Xiaoya immediately let out a soft ah and ran away, her face flushed red. Shu Kexin, following behind, was about to tease them, but before she could speak, Lin Shi called out that lunch was ready. The group gathered around the dining table. As soon as Shu Kexin and Lin Yu sat down, they couldn't help but start chatting about the construction of the domain space. Boss, after the lake is dug, can we build a house? We can't sleep on the ground every time we go in. How comfortable would it be to build a house to live in? Don't you think so, Xiao Yu? Shu Kexin shoveled a mouthful of rice into her mouth and said excitedly. But we don't have bricks and cement, Lin Yue said, biting her chopsticks, looking a bit worried. Silly, there's plenty of everything outside, especially stones. Shu Kexin's eyes darted around, and she looked toward the center console screen again, asking, Xiao Shi, can the engineering robots build houses using stone? Miss Shu, the plan is feasible. The engineering robots are capable of cutting stone. I can dispatch and manage the construction according to your requirements. See, even Xiao Shi says it's possible. Shu Kexin got even more excited. Once we're done eating, we'll go in and take a look. We'll choose the location for the house first. I want to design my room properly. After saying that, she looked excitedly at Lin Shi and the others. There are 6 of us now, so we'll need a lot of rooms. Lin Yu began to brainstorm while eating. Wait, should I share a room with Xiaoya? Or with my sister? I want to sleep with my sister, but I also want to cuddle Xiaoya. Xiao Yu, hurry up and eat. Once we're done, we'll go in and discuss it slowly with Xiao Shi. Shu Kexin shoveled down her food, her speed noticeably increasing. Boss, you don't have to worry. I'll design the biggest room for you, and then design a big bed for you. Hey, boss. Aren't I being extremely thoughtful? Wu Di glanced at Shu Kexen, and then at the others who were smiling, but he didn't say anything. He could no longer be bothered to scold her. Although Su Wanwan and Lin Shi didn't join the conversation, they unconsciously ate faster, their eyes showing a hint of eagerness. Right after they finished eating, just as Su Wanwan finished cleaning up the dishes, her arms were grabbed by Shu Kexen on her left and Lin Yu on her right. Sister Wanwan, let's go. Let's go inside and pick a spot. Let's see how we should build it. And Xiaoya, let's go watch them dig the lake together. Lin Yu also took Xiaoya's small hand, turned to Lin Shi, and swayed her body. Sister, you should come too. This is our future home after all. Lin Shi glanced out the window, then at Wu Di, and hesitated before speaking. You guys go ahead. I'll stay in the carriage to keep watch. That way, if anything happens outside, we can react in time. Wu Di looked up at her. Go on in. I'll keep watch here. Nothing will happen in the short term. Lin Shi hesitated for a few seconds, but ultimately shook her head. No, you guys go in. I'll stay out here to keep Big Brother Wu Di company. It'll be the same if I look after you guys have finished discussing. Go ahead. All right then, sister. You're the older sister, so you have the final say, Lin Yu replied. She and Shu Kexen pulled Su Wanwan from both sides, held Xiaoya's hand, and excitedly rushed into the domain space. Their figures quickly vanished from the carriage. The carriage suddenly became quiet. Lin Shi walked over and sat in the passenger seat. Looking at the gray sky outside the window, she fell silent for a few seconds before speaking softly. Big Brother Wu Di, tomorrow is the last day. She paused, her voice carrying a trace of unconcealable worry. What about Xiaoya? She knew in her heart that she shouldn't bring up this question. But after spending time together recently, seeing the little girl go from being timid at first to gradually showing a smile, she just couldn't let it go. Even though she knew Wu Di might not have a solution, she couldn't help but ask. Chapter 340, Ways to Improve Strength. After Lin Shi finished speaking, the vehicle fell silent for a few seconds. Wu Di watched the slow progress of the construction on the center console screen, remained silent for a moment, and said indifferently, We'll talk about it later. Lin Shi glanced at Wu Di, nodded gently, and did not press further. Wu Di didn't say anything else, he just silently opened the communication channel. Are there any brothers guarding the south side? What's the situation with the natives? They've gone quiet after the fight. What else could it be? They stopped fighting and retreated. If I had lost a battle, I'd have to go back and reorganize too. You don't expect them to throw a victory banquet, do you? I'm really curious about what the wall you guys mentioned actually looks like. Someone said it was 100 meters high. Is that true? And is it made of metal? 100 meters high is a bit of an exaggeration, but it's true that you can't see the end of it. It's a pity that this crappy communication channel can't even send pictures. We've been talking for ages without having a concrete concept. Exactly, this chat system is too primitive. Are we playing a text-based survival game here? We can't even upload a single image. Forget it, send pictures. If you could actually send pictures, wouldn't they just censor it? Don't forget this is doomsday survival, not a place for you to scroll through your social media feed. It's moving, it's moving. The wall area is moving. What's moving? Who's moving? Be clear. The area where the natives gathered has opened up a gap, a hole the size of a doggy door. Lots of armored vehicles and mechs are crawling inside. A doggy door. What kind of doggy door is that? Can you even describe things? That's called a tactical breach. By the way, why are they going in? To clean up the battlefield. Who knows? It's too far away to see clearly, but a whole crowd of people went in. So they were surrounding that place because there was a doggy door. Is that the entrance? Has no one gone closer to take a look? Get closer and look. What can you see from crouching so far away? Get closer. Why don't you go? With that density of artillery fire earlier, you wouldn't even have any scraps left if you got close. It's only because the natives are busy dealing with things inside and don't have time to bother with us. Otherwise, with all of us gathered nearby, we would have been wiped out long ago. The communication channel was buzzing with chatter, and messages were scrolling by rapidly. Wudi's eyes flickered slightly. As expected, these natives still went in. Having lost the battle and paid with supplies, in the end they were still fixated on the things inside the forbidden zone. I wonder what kind of expressions they will have when they enter and face the empty underground base. Or perhaps there really is something he doesn't know about. Time passed slowly. The lake excavation project in the domain space was completed on schedule. Lin Yu and the others kept transporting water into the space, and even Xiaoya was happily carrying a basin back and forth to transport water. The sky gradually darkened. The natives remained quiet, and there was no useful news on the communication channel. Dinner was soon ready. The group sat around and ate together. Shukeksen and Lin Yu sprawled on the sofa, rubbing their stomachs with looks of satisfaction. Zixi, your cooking skills are truly incredible. You can make even these simple ingredients taste so good. Boss really hit the jackpot having you. Shukeksen leaned lazily on the sofa, not forgetting to offer praise. Lin Yu also nodded vigorously. Sister, will your skills upgrade after you use them? Will it taste even better then? Sister Zhu, you're just as lazy as little you. Next time there's a cooking skill book, I'll give it to you to use. Lin Shi, who was on the side, said with a helpless expression. As for her own sister, she couldn't even be bothered to complain. Su Wanwan sat nearby, scrolling through the communication channel, and looked up to say, There's still no new news on the channel. Those natives who entered the Forbidden Zone still haven't come out. I wonder what exactly is inside that could keep them searching for so long. And there are more and more players gathering nearby. Hearing Su Wanwan's words, Lin Shi stopped chatting casually. This afternoon, at least dozens of player teams have passed by. I guess they all came for today's battle. Zixi, did that many people come this afternoon? Shukeksen sat up a bit straighter. Tomorrow is the 7th day. With so many people gathered here, what if the natives turn back and start fighting us again? Wouldn't these people die in droves? Do they think they're like us and can go head-to-head with the natives? Exactly, Lin Yue also wrinkled her little face. These people aren't even afraid of being wiped out in one go. They're too bold. The group chatted back and forth, showing no signs of the pressure of facing the 7th day. Xiaoya also sat on the side, quietly listening to them talk. 6:35 p.m. Wu Di looked at the blueprint Su Wanwan had just opened from a talent treasure chest in her personal space. Permission Adaptation Blueprint. Special item. After use, it can rewrite the permissions of a designated item, lowering its usage requirements. Looking at the blueprint description, Wu Di was deep in thought. Most vehicle-mounted items have clear vehicle-level restrictions. If the level is insufficient, they cannot be installed or used. This blueprint happens to solve that problem and is definitely a rare treasure for ordinary players. But for him, this thing is of little use. The items in his hands have basically all been strengthened by his talent, and without exception, all strengthened items have low usage requirements. Wu Di suspected that his talent must have a hidden effect, although it wasn't specified in the talent description. Now it seems that lowering the usage threshold must be one of the hidden effects. At least so far, he hasn't encountered any equipment that he couldn't use because his level wasn't high enough. Wu Di half lay in the driver's seat, closing his eyes to rest. Xiaoya lay quietly in the passenger seat, her small body sitting upright. She would curiously stare at the center console screen one moment, and then climb onto the car window to watch the sky outside, gradually turning completely dark, her eyes full of wonder. The little girl had slowly opened up over this period of time, no longer as timid and shrinking as when they first met, and there was more vitality in her eyes. Wu Di opened his eyes, turned his head to look at her, and then his gaze fell back into the deep night ahead. The natives still hadn't made any moves, and the teams that entered the Forbidden Zone hadn't returned. They had been parked here all afternoon, and the natives hadn't come to cause trouble for them, nor had they bothered with the players gathering nearby. Why was this happening? Wu Di thought about everything that had happened today. Could the things inside the Forbidden Zone really be that important? Time slipped away while Wu Di let his thoughts wander. Xiaoya had been taken back to the bedroom by Suwanwan to rest. Seeing that the time was approaching midnight and the talent was about to refresh, Wu Di perked up and looked at the head of the Imperial Army soul, already stored in his personal space. There was no need to consider other items. He planned to use it on this the moment his talent refreshed. This item could increase attributes every day, and delaying the strengthening by even 1 day was a loss. Thinking about Zero's strength during the day, Wu Di felt exceptionally fired up. Zero was an eternal grade item, and Titan's Wrath was also an eternal grade item. If his own strength improved, would he be able to unleash the full power of Titan's Wrath?